can be middlemen who try to skim pieces of it off, and then their settlements or aggregate settlements on chain are still enough to secure the base layer. That's my opinion, at least.
Well, I think like you could have middlemen, and it might be fine. I'm just saying it's a good rule of thumb, because we want to be saying, okay, if middlemen are doing this, like for example, OpVault competes to some extent with like a Casa or like some kind of like a Fireblocks or like a multi-sig type of a thing. Because if you can use the network to secure your money for you with OpVault, then you have the cypherpunk way that's private and whatever. So it's kind of like fighting over market share. And so, ideally developers would be
who don't want to roll their own crypto with OpVault. They would still trust Casa or on chain, right? Because they want the hand holding, they want the video call.
No, but I'm worried you're missing the point. Happens. I'm worried you're missing the point completely. It's
okay, what's the point? Let's go for it.
It's like someone's selling guns, and they say, "This is my cool gun, and this is a rifle, and you can hit people from far away, and this is a shotgun. It doesn't take a lot of effort to learn how to use a shotgun compared to like a sniper rifle or something." So you have all these guns. That's the self-sovereignty world, and you have safes. And you have cool stuff that people use, water filters. And then there's a different world. People go to Disney World and the security and everything's taken care of for them. They go to maybe a hotel.
Yeah, no guns at Disney World.
And
obvious rule.
Right. And so the question is just should we evolve the protocol to meet the needs of real people? Which include sometimes people need a gun, and then you're saying, well, hey, listen, there's going to be some people who want to go to Disney World. I'm saying, like, listen, we need all the customers we can get, we need all the users we can get, we need all the adoption we can get. If we don't get as much, if someone else gets more users first, then that will be the winning crypto project. And if it's not possible to get a lot of people, you're ignoring the fact that many people really do buy guns. Which is the Canadian truckers, people who needed the Bitcoin. There's sometimes people need it, and Donald Trump. So you kind of have it both ways, and both ways are wrong. But you kind of have it both ways. You're trying to say, on one hand, you're saying, well, people are stupid. They don't care about self-sovereignty. This is not actually true for millions and millions of people. Argentina, Zimbabwe, hyperinflation, Canadian truckers, Trump family, Ukraine war, weird stuff going on, whatever's going on in China right now.
People who experience hyperinflation don't necessarily care about self-sovereignty, which is actually proven by the fact that they're using stablecoins. Stablecoins are permissioned, completely ruggable, not self-sovereign shitcoins.
I think it's not true to say it's true that the backing of Tether by U.S. dollars is like a crucial link in the chain that is custodial, but think about it. Tether makes a huge amount of money, an enormous amount of money every quarter for doing very little work. And the whole reason is because people trust the brand. It's all about the brand. The brand is everything. So people believe
the brand is the dollar.
Tether has said, we will redeem. You can redeem this for the dollar. And they fought to preserve that. So that's different from the US dollar, although it's related because they exchange at par. In a way, Tether proves that the one-to-one peg is. Well, the dollar has very strong network effects, so the dollar will grow and crush everything in its path if we let it. But it's the brand that's ruined by these terrible Bitcoin projects, which include Lightning, but not limited to.
What do you think about dollars coming to Bitcoin? You think that's good or bad?
Well, can you clarify what you mean? Like you're saying the fact that
dollar stable coins enabled by like RGB and Spark.
It was already all that was. This was all Bitcoin project to begin with, because Omni Tether was from Omni, and that was from a Mastercoin, and all this was all Bitcoin only for like years, and then it was even Omni was on Bitcoin only, but then they left because the block size and the fees and It's not just that.
So with it coming back, do you think that would be good or bad for Bitcoin if
we
it
want
were to
everything
gain
to be on Bitcoin.
majority market share?
We want everything to be on Bitcoin in some part of the stack. Of course, I would imagine it being on an L2 of Bitcoin, obviously.
I think it'd be minted on the base layer in some way, but then probably shipped up and traded on L2s. I think they're right.
Yeah, that we don't have enough block space on L1, obviously. Everyone knows that already, I think.
I mean, you can mint $1 trillion of Tether in a, and then trading it is another, distributing it.
Trading is everything.
Would be done on the L2.
The thing is, people say, like, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you like the play? About like these little things. They say, well, wallet of Satoshi, it's pretty good, but it's custodial. It's like, this is the heart and soul of the thing. Okay? It's like saying, this is our elevator, or this is our escalator. It'll take you all the way to the top, but the problem is it's not working. So you have to, it's like saying you tell someone in a wheelchair, they want to go to the top of whatever, the Empire State Building or something. And you say, some people or the Statue of Liberty, and some people are walking up the stairs. And I say, we have an elevator. And it's a custodial elevator. And they point to the staircase. And it's like, this is not like some tiny little detail. People say, it's fine, it just doesn't scale. It's like, it's like someone forgot to, you order a hamburger, and they just send you like an empty plate or a plate with ingredients on it or something. It's like someone forgot to cook all the food. It's everything. Whether or not the user experience is good, whether or not the price is competitive, whether or not it scales, whether or not it's just like people say these things and they say, it's really, really, really good. Lightning's fine as long as the ordinals don't move the L1 fee rate up. It's fine as long as we don't try to onboard more than 50,000 people at once. It's fine as long as both of you people are online. It's like, forget about it. Like, this is all just garbage.
It's fine as long as you have a intermediary doing the swaps.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
coordinating the sharing of a UTXO underneath.
So it's not,
by the way.
Well, all this stuff, the custodial stuff, it has its own issues in addition to the ruggability. Is that, it leads to awkward questions about, whatever. Is this all like Vladimir Putin's money or something? So it's, and then it becomes like a honeypot, like if it becomes really big. So Tether, Tether fought to protect their brand, and they grew through times when, it was unclear if they could actually redeem. So you're saying like, we minted on L1 and then transacted. Whether the transacting is like an essential part of the whole thing. It doesn't matter if you mint. And the network effect is too important.
Well, I mean, the transacting, I think you would agree, like base layer would be a terrible place to be having high velocity stablecoin payments. I mean, that would not make sense.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah. No, so you want that to scale on second layers that are.
Yes, of course.
Second layers of side chains that are tailor built for payments. I mean, you would agree with that. Now, Paul, I mean, have you used custodial Lightning yourself? Have you slumped down to the normie?
Well, yeah, accidentally. Yes, no, I have used it like occasionally.
Yeah. What did you think? Was it pretty sweet?
Yeah, but that it. Yeah, and it's like, that's not the point. It's like when it's no different than using a credit card that has the word Lightning written on it. It's an essential fraud.
You're still paying in sats.
No,
the merchant receives them.
That is
it might be trusted, but sats are moving. HTLCs are getting.
No,
updated.
I don't actually. This thing is, I don't actually know. You have no idea what arrangement the merchant has. They could not be getting sats at all.
Oh, that's true. Right. Yeah. They could be getting it swapped into USDC.
They could just be getting something deposited to their checking account the next day.
Yeah, right.
They could get anything.
Well, I mean, I guess the point is, ultimately under the hood, if you're using a custodial Lightning and you're paying an LN invoice, unless it's coming from another user,
I think this is all false. There's absolutely no guarantee that custodial... Because think about it like this.
There's no way. I mean, how else?
No, the essential character of Lightning... The the dominant feature of Lightning, beyond anything else, this is the number one thing about Lightning, is that it constantly lies about what it is. So you have the primal to primal zap that uses the Lightning icon. It does not use any Lightning transaction. So then you have Stacker News. You have the Lightning icon.
Actually,
it's all fake.
Wait, time out. So Paul, you may have, not been keeping up to date with Primal, but they're using Spark now. So they're no longer using custodial Lightning. They're using trustodial.
Sure, I've stopped paying attention to that. I'm happy to say I've stopped having this inflicted on my consciousness a while ago. But the thing is, it also doesn't matter, because the custodial format is the only way such a broken idea could even work. Because you can't onboard people unless they open a channel the real way. So the whole thing, it has to be. You know what I mean? It's like a child who sees a magician, and he thinks that the magician saw a woman in half. He says, "Oh, cut a woman in half," and he goes back to his parents and tells them all about it. The parent already knows that it's custodial. It's custodial cut. They know that it's not real. They know what really happened. And someone says, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but they switched from using a mannequin to using two women in the box to deceive to do the magic trick." And it's like, none of that matters. The point is, you can't cut people in half that way and Lightning is that's what it is. Lightning is this idea that says we can cut a human being in half, put them back together, and everyone's being fooled by it constantly, except for the engineers who constantly come up to me in person and they whisper frightened words into my ear and say, "You're right about everything, blah, blah, blah." And all the people at TabConf at the debate last year, well, they all know that it's a dead end. And this is further underlined by the movement to custodial Lightning, and the movement to ARC is all just underlining the rejection of Lightning that everyone is experiencing.
Well, or it's highlighting the fact that
the fact that we even talk about it is preventing Bitcoin from reaching the future.
It's highlighting the fact that Lightning is ultimately just a bank-to-bank protocol.
Real quick.
Well, yeah. I mean, what difference does it make?
Is there a point made to keep Bitcoin from scaling so the price goes up? So when we get to that part of the market?
Well, I think it will only go up if people believe that it has a future. So the price can go up before Bitcoin scales, as long as if you say, "Oh, I've invented this thing on Monday, here it is." You show it to everyone. So you can invest in it now. And here it comes out Monday. On Friday, it will scale to the world. Well, yeah, it could be worth a lot on Monday. And it could be going up and up and up in value Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then it scales to the world. So, and it doesn't matter if it's Friday or 10 years from now. But people need to know, does it have a future where it actually will scale? And if it does not, then the price, if it does, the price should be really, really high today. And if it does not, then the price should be really, really low today, because the final destination is zero.
So I guess then the question is, do people need to believe that it will scale non-custodially, or are most people okay with it scaling custodially? And if that's the case, is that a threat to its long-term survival?
There should be a mix, but I think there's a certain level of custodial demand and there's a certain level of non-custodial demand. So as I said, there's the Canadian truckers, and when everything's custodial, that encourages people. That encourages, for example, like, you can't have debanking unless most of the world is custodial. But if like 20% of the world is self-sovereign and 80% or whatever, 50-50, then you have to treat your custodial customers a lot better. So there's a certain portion of demand in each category, and Bitcoin should try to gobble all of it up. We shouldn't leave anything on the table. If we gobble anything up, it's a risk that someone else will take that market, and then we will not be able to have the network effect. But I think there's an enormous non-custodial demand. So you're trying to say, oh, most normal people, how would you even know that? You know what I mean? Because most people don't even have the option, and most people don't even understand. And the software today is so bad, relative to where it could be. Even Bitcoin rejects stuff like the 12-word seed. That was like one of the few things that the public was able to kind of wrap their heads around. And stuff like BIP47, which should have gotten rid of the need for these absurd addresses. All this stuff is rejected by Bitcoin. We're kicking people, and even the treasury companies. All this stuff is the gas is being pressed on custodial world, and the brakes are being pressed on the non-custodial world. And then this is attributed to demand. I think that's very uncreative and not true. It's very inaccurate, I think. Sorry, the question is, how was BIP47 rejected?
Yeah, wasn't Samourai using BIP47?
It was in Bitcoin Core. In Bitcoin Core, it was proposed in 2014, and then Luke was like unanimously discouraged for implementation.
So what? I mean, so you can still use BIP47 without Bitcoin Core.
I know, but it's a shame that we should be holding it up and cheering and saying this is the greatest, and it should be everywhere. Instead, it's only in Samourai.
I disagree. I think as long as other wallets and other third parties want to integrate things that Bitcoin Core has, that's a good thing. I mean,
not enough people have implemented it to referendum on the health of the overall Bitcoin community.
Well, the other thing, Paul, is like you can't. I mean, I think you're wanting for Core to be like a top down, just like merge this thing because I think it's a good idea. But you really need to show
it has to be a better idea. Everyone knows that.
If it was such a great idea, then many more users would have adopted it, and then
I think it's backwards.
Demanded Core merge it. You think
the fact that Core didn't merge it proves how completely clueless they are in general.
Because so many people are closeted BIP47 users.
But hold on, but then you could. Why didn't you?
The world doesn't work like that.
Against Bitcoin Core? Why didn't you make your own implementation?
I am now.
Now you're forking off. You're not creating your own implementation. You're forking off the network. I'm saying, why didn't you create your own implementation and done whatever policy you want them to do?
No, because it's very difficult. First of all, you can't just make a new front end to Bitcoin because of the way that like Qt is like woven into the C++. So it's just like a weird quirk that is harder to.
You could have done what Knots did, or you could have done what Eric is doing with LibBitcoin. You could have done it from scratch, or you could have just forked Core and done whatever policy you wanted to do.
Well, that is what I'm doing now.
No, but
I had no idea they were so stupid.
Said. I'm talking about creating another implementation of a Bitcoin node. No. So there's many different implementations that.
Well, it could be either or.
It could be, it could be either or. But there's Bitcoin. There's Knots.
By the way, there is a new front end fork that's pretty sleek. It's not on mainnet yet.
I know, but the fact that it's taken until 2026 this just proves my point about how completely clueless these people are. No, it's ridiculous.
But you could have competed against those people that are clueless with your own implementation.
I know. Well, now I am.
No, you're creating a different freaking chain. You're not competing against Core. You're competing against Bitcoin now instead of just competing against Bitcoin Core.
Well, it would be one thing if it was just BIP47, but it's actually everything.
Everything. But you could have done everything that you wanted to do. You didn't need Bitcoin Core to do these things. This is what I was trying to tell you for fucking 12 years. You don't need Bitcoin Core.
No, I disagree. I think Bitcoin Core has a de facto monopoly on the Bitcoin brand.
But if you created these features that are wanted by the market, people would migrate away from Bitcoin Core to your implementation.
No, but I disagree with that.
Why?
I just explained why. I think there's Bitcoin Core has this brand. No one wants to run things other than Bitcoin Core. If you disagree by just one byte, if you have almost the exact same chain and you're one byte off, then it will split the network.
But people are running
different. He has a well-known post about this, saying that he thinks the second implementation would be a menace to the network and shouldn't be built. The LibBitcoin, is further proof that Bitcoin Core is terrible at their jobs, I think. But the fact that people won't switch, you can't switch to it. You're locked in. It's like saying, why not make a new Microsoft Word or something? Or why not make a different QWERTY keyboard or something like that? It's just the network effect runs it becomes a prison when it becomes Bitcoin Core. If Bitcoin Core wanted more competition, there would have been ways to do that, but I don't think that they do to facilitate further competing. It's kind of like saying, you go to a restaurant, you're saying, why do they do this? It has to reach a certain threshold before you say, you know what, I'm going to start my own restaurant. Then you have to worry, hey, if I start my own restaurant, maybe the first restaurant will suddenly shape up. Like maybe Bitcoin Core will they'll merge BIP47. So it's not so simple at all.
No, but BIP47 wasn't a consensus change. You could have added BIP47 to your own implementation.
That's not the issue. The issue is good ideas that they foolishly reject. For nonsensical criteria.
If they were that foolish, they would start losing dominance, and there would be a different implementation.
Yes, they will. That is what will happen. But it's not going to happen overnight.
What? You're not making any sense. A minute ago, you said that they have a monopoly, no one will switch over. Now you're saying they will switch over.
No, I'm saying they're going to kill off BTC probably, and then
why would they kill?
I don't know if they're doing it on purpose. I think they're just foolish. No, that is me.
This isn't a realistic conversation right
now. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what to tell you. They do lots of stuff that's nonsensical, which includes extremely serious things, like not doing the software.
I could understand the whole you can't get your fork in, they're not listening to you, so you just go and fork it yourself and create a UTXO fork. That's fine. I could understand that part. But if you think that Bitcoin is doing a bad job with Bitcoin,
yes, of course,
then you could you could have just had your own implementation, just like Luke is doing, just like there's many people out there that Bitcoin and Bitcoin, there's a lot of people that created their own implementations. Yeah, they didn't do as well as Bitcoin Core, but maybe their ideas weren't good enough. Maybe you have the right ideas, and you could have made Bitcoin better. But instead, you're forcing Bitcoin's UTXO set into a shitcoin, and now you're going to compete against Bitcoin.
I don't believe it's possible to compete against Bitcoin Core without creating a new fork.
But it's possible to compete against Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's the only way.
Dude. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if that line of reasoning really makes much sense, Paul.
There's a whole long list of crazy things Bitcoin Core has done. And the fact they won't...
But you could have competed against them. You could have been an implementation and competed against them, and then the market would realize that they're idiots and you're smart.
No, because the competition is multi-factor. So if the network's split, then it becomes a popularity contest. There's a huge cost.
But there wouldn't be a split. You would be adding things to like policy-wise.
I don't think you're familiar enough with the technical details. Sorry to say.
But Knots didn't split the network, right? And Bitcoin didn't split the network. Bitcoin never split the network.
The claim that Knots is like significantly different from Bitcoin Core is
we know that it's not. A fork that,
right.
The point is that you're still able to
LibBitcoin is different. So let me ask you this: given that LibBitcoin syncs much faster, and given that it doesn't do any assume valid shortcuts and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So given that LibBitcoin is basically better than Bitcoin Core in many, many ways, why haven't people adopted it? Let me ask you that question.
Well, for one, it's not out yet. There's nothing to download. Yeah. That's one reason.
But you see, this is like
the second reason I think
doesn't have as much review.
For people that are
review, that's right.
Already
the second factor.
For people that are already synced to chain tip, I don't think faster IDB times is like they care about that. They're already on chain tip.
That's exactly right. There are other factors other than quality that people care about, and one of them is, am I on the same Bitcoin network as everyone else? And that's why they have to stick with Core, no matter how bad it is. There's some competition is multi-factor.
The most widely adopted Bitcoin node implementation today is 029, not 0312.
It's 27 actually.
Oh, 27, even further back. So the most popular Bitcoin Core version is like 7 versions behind.
Yeah, I know. I don't upgrade mine either, unless I want to test.
Are you worried? Are you worried that the version that you're running today is going to fork off? There might be a consensus failure?
It's Bitcoin Core is the brand. It's the brand of Bitcoin Core. And it's the fact that it's the same repo, it's the same keys, it's the same maintainers. It's the brand.
But it's different, completely different maintainers are now. Like, I can't name you more than probably 3 or 4 developers that are contributing to Bitcoin Core today.
No, but it's the same project. It's the same project. It's the same brand.
All right. Well, I guess the only way to disrupt the project is by...
Let me ask you this. Do you think there's ever multi-factor competition? Like, do you think the best idea just always just comes out the next day and then it replaces the previous idea?
I think Bitcoin needs to be good enough for it to continue doing what it's been doing. And I think that's why it's been where it is, and that's why shitcoins don't have staying power. I think that's why shitcoins all, like, they pump and dump. Bitcoin hasn't, that's the difference. I think it's just good enough and what it does.
So, Paul, if it's the brand, my biggest question here is, you think that's the trivial thing to fork away? I don't see how
the brand is the impossible thing to replicate. It has a brand of reliability, of years of reliability. So it can then suck horribly as an actual objective fact of the matter.
But what you're saying, though, is that's effectively what you have to replicate when you create the shitcoin, is you have to create a new brand that starts sort of from zero. From zero perceptually in many ways for most people.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's, you don't see that as like an intractable uphill battle that others have fought, and sort of the bodies are on the field, as it were.
Will it be difficult? Yes, but I think it also maxes out. It's nonlinear. So I think the way it works is people see, has this been running for 6 months to a year. And then that's kind of good enough. So then I think you can tie after 2 years. But that's something that you would never get. LibBitcoin can never get that because no one wants to be the first through the door. You never have the majority of the network trying it for 6 months. Because you'll never get to the majority.
Do you see how much hate Bitcoin Core is getting right now? They've never got. I think it's getting more hate today than it got in 2015.
That's true, because Bitcoin Core is objectively terrible, and they are lazy and complacent and corrupt.
So this is prime time for destruction, man.
What? I didn't catch that. What did you say? I didn't hear the last part.
He said it's prime time to build your own client.
That's exactly that is what I'm doing.
That is not a hard fork.
No, but I don't think again you can't. I don't know how I can be any more clear. You don't have a client. It's like you need permission from the government. It's like you need a medallion or a license, and they'll only give you the license if you've been running. This is a metaphor for the brand. They'll only give it to you if a huge critical mass of people have been trusting you for 6 to 12 months. So that's the barrier to entry. And you can never afford that. You cannot, there's no way of obtaining that. So it's infinity cost. So you cannot release a new client. There's no such thing. You can just release a client that is comparable to Bitcoin Core.
But you're saying you're in 6 to 12 months, you're going to gain, you're able to gain the trust if you just sort of fork it.
Well, it will be slightly different because it'll be a different thing. But people will say, well, at least this L1 node has been running over here with this other network for a while.
Doesn't that overlook all the other things?
You're the trusted third party here. You're the single developer here, man. Well, how is that?
Yeah, doesn't it go into you're overlooking all the other things that I think take even longer than 12 months?
The eCash node doesn't need any developers because the L1 is literally just a fork of Bitcoin, and it's literally just, if you go on GitHub, it hasn't even been renamed to limit the number of lines of code.
What version is it forked off of?
It will be always the latest version. So you just keep clicking merge on the changes.
So it's always going to rely on Bitcoin Core existing, basically?
It will always tie Bitcoin Core for as long as Bitcoin Core is around.
So the success of eCash is basically Bitcoin Core succeeding.
Well, same as NOTs.
It will be a copy until Bitcoin Core
stops updating.
Yeah, or if Bitcoin Core just goes away.
Or there could always be other people who fork.
Then what are you going to do? What happens if Bitcoin Core goes away?
Then we just go carry on. Then we just carry on and leave it exactly where it was.
Paul, can I ask a question? So you talked about the technical side, and let's just assume, you're 6 to 12 months. Everyone technically now feels that the implementation, the code, what the system is by design is solid because you've run it for 6 to 12 months. That's one aspect, I think, of people sort of putting their faith in something is the technical architecture. But then isn't there, and I guess this depends on what you think the value proposition of this fork is, isn't the other part of that like the monetary trust, the governance trust, the social trust, which that seems like it would take, well, that seems like it would take 5 times as long, 10 times as long to build that sort of trust.
I think some of it bleeds over where before, when Bitcoin came out, no one had heard of any cryptocurrencies. And there were lots and lots of debates that went for hours and days and weeks. People would debate things like, can something have any value at all if it's not a physical object? So people had long debates about all this minutia. And only a few people, such as myself, I would tell people, I would say, hey, listen, numbers, words are intangible. I do a demonstration where I'd say, raise your hand if you think words have no value. And, it's like, words are independent. So I go down the list. But the point is, a lot of stuff was confusing back then. Like people didn't know how addresses worked. People didn't know how change worked. So lots of stuff was really, really confusing. Some of that would bleed over. Now everyone kind of understands that crypto is a thing and that it's kind of like slightly dark in that a lot of illegal people and scammers use it and that there's privacy advocates who use it. So a lot of it would bleed over, I think. The only reason, basically the eCash fork is basically a hedge against the failure of BTC. So if BTC succeeds, then I'll be just fine. I'll be very happy. But I just I have my eyes open and everything is there's tons of terrible things going on in BTC that are not getting any better. A lot of them are getting worse. It's a good thing. The NOTS 110 people have at least shined a light on how terrible Bitcoin Core is. And Bitcoin Core gets worse every year because it hides behind this brand, this monopoly brand that it has. And that's the situation.
What do you think? Can you enumerate the top 3 things you think are wrong with Bitcoin Core that are not just like esoteric government?
I think one we could go on for many hours about is that they treat the soft fork as though it's different from any other code change, which is absurd because you can do with one line of code, you could destroy everything. And this happened a lot. And even when Matt Corallo tried to do his tiny little speed up, he accidentally created an inflation bug, which is perfectly fine. I'm not trying to criticize that. I'm just pointing out that trying to speed up something by a few millionths of a second can create an inflation bug. Even though that's not a hard or soft, it wasn't intended to be a hard or soft fork. It was just like anything else. The fact that 51% hash rate needs to run a soft fork before users can use it safely that's just a tiny detail. And there's nothing special about that. And we shouldn't have any of these debates. We should activate all the soft forks that have been proposed, all the ones that are op-nop or op-success based. But then here's the thing is the official policy of Bitcoin Core is not to touch anything if it's controversial. So and the one funny thing about that is that even though Ava Chow said that to me in person and then said it on online on Twitter, you have all kinds of people who would come up to me and say, oh, that's not true or whatever, even though it's obviously true. And they admit that it's true. But then you have people like Nick Jonas saying that I'm slandering people and putting words in people's mouths. It's all freely available on Twitter. So there's this whole bizarre. But I'm rolling all these up. You asked for a top 3. I'm rolling this all up into one thing, which is they refuse to do anything, quote, controversial, close quote. And where controversy is measured in some by Twitter or something, basically. And you can see how they manufactured controversy over op return. And just like they do over every soft fork. So that whole thing is one giant thing that's huge. I think it's hard to pick a second thing after that giant first thing, but there's a couple other things like Core does not encourage competition at all. So they don't encourage there are many things they could do. These would be of totally different flavors. But one is if they just prioritize side chains in the first place, then at least if people hate L1, they could escape to an L2 blockchain that they might actually like. So that would be one thing that would help. A second thing, I'm still trying to roll this all up into the second point. But there could be some kind of A team, B team, red team, blue team, or something like that, where there's at least like two halves that compete, and they, that are maybe like there's some kind of stakes. See, this is all related to the fact that they don't want anyone to like sue them or be put in jail or something, which I completely understand. But as a result, it means there's no accountability in the project. So these are huge systemic flaws that are like, they're just crippling the project. We can go down like a number of specific things.
Don't you think some of those things are almost inherent when you get to a certain level of adoption and seriousness?
Yeah.
When you start having.
There's a book called The Innovator's Dilemma that says that actually death is necessary in the economy. Like you have to have companies going out of business because at a certain point, every organization becomes inefficient. Because you've got things were taken for granted in 1992 that aren't true in 2002, and
I think the problem is this is a monetary. There's a problem here, though, that this is a monetary network. I totally understand what you're saying, creative destruction of capitalism, and the sort of analogy there. But typically, that's with like companies that are producing like, hey man, I bought a cool new phone, or I bought like a this device or something. Now there's another company making it. My switching cost is 0. It's not super scary. Like the idea that we would have like rapid creative destruction measured in the order of 15 years on entire monetary systems, I think is a little bit beyond the pale and sort of.
Well, it's really only one, because most normal people do not accept that Bitcoin is money. So if you talk to like normal, even like people who participate in the culture, we're talking like CNN reporters or something like that. Most of those people don't believe that. They just think this is some weird investment thing or a tech startup anyway.
That's an orthogonal argument. I think we have to say if
because I'm saying, how much do we really lose? I'm saying, how much do we if we sacrifice Bitcoin and
I think
swap
we
out
lose
a different
trillions in market cap. But if you had $1 trillion in market cap that just evaporated because the underlying company disappeared, all shareholders were hung out to dry, and you're like, oh, don't worry, there's a new company in town.
What you're saying is it's inconvenient. You're saying correctly that it's inconvenient for people to keep switching.
Monetary, basically.
Exactly.
I mean, the equivalent.
But I'm saying we really only have to do it once, because if someone builds a second one,
apparently it was twice, right?
Well, yeah, you mean once from fiat to BTC and then once from BTC to ETH.
Yeah, that would be correct. Right. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, though, I mean, everyone wants to be the only Highlander, right? I mean, I feel like that's kind of like.
I don't want to do the eCash fork at all. If Bitcoin Core didn't suck so much, I wouldn't do it. I was basically forced to do it.
Man, I feel like it would eventually get to the same. It would get to the same thing. You'd feel if ETFs adopt the eCash fork, if everyone was putting just major skin in the game and like countries started buying it and stuff, it would eventually get to the point where it was, it was pretty difficult to pass things without, a super majority.
I agree, but the L2, that's why it's built into the L2 ecosystem, that you can launch a new L2 and the existing L2s can't stop you. So that's the error correction is built in, or the governance, as you may call it.
I mean, it's an interesting theory. I don't know. So many people have built.
If there's not error correction on the scale of Bitcoin Core, then it'll be a black swan where it will look stable for a while. It will be stable for a long while, and then there'll be a huge revolution. So you can't fight reality forever. There are a couple things that maybe you could, like the alphabet or the integers.
Argue with Bcash, like their time will come.
Well, to some extent, the big bloggers were right about a lot of things. So I'm much too smart to fall for the trap of just saying one side good, one side bad. Each of the two sides had some points that were good, some points that were basically irrelevant or pointless distractions, and then they had some points that were terrible. And most people, they have a crippling fear of being rejected so they just tribe up and they join the small block, in this case, the small blocker tribe. But I'm already very, 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 very popular, and I have many friends. So when I come to the Bitcoin world, I don't need any more friends, and I just tell the truth out of my brain. And the truth is this, that the large blockers had many points that were good. Not enough to justify their horrible idea, which was self-contradictory in many ways, because they said, well, we're going to uncap the L1 block size, but then you had Gavin Andreessen saying nobody wants an uncapped L1 block size, and he said, oh, we'll make it 8 megabytes with Bitcoin XT, and then said we'll make it 2 megabytes with Bitcoin Classic, and then they said blah, blah, blah. So they kind of didn't really know what they were doing, and they had a terrible plan, and they had a terrible execution. And there's no reason to do large blocks on L1 if a bunch of people hate that idea, because you could safely do them on L2. So blah, 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 blah. So, but despite all that, the large blockers had many ideas that were good. And one of them was, we have to get, eventually it has to be possible for people to be buying coffee on somewhere in the Bitcoin stack the world over, where they, 4 billion.
Paul, I have to push back. If people aren't using the chain, then it's cheap to use the chain for coffee.
I don't know how that's a pushback against what I'm saying.
If the fees are, if people think that the fees are too high.
The fees, I don't understand why people, I feel like I've elaborated this point many times. In my head, the fees are stuck at 10 cents per transaction. Now, you understand there's a difference between gallons.
You can buy coffee on chain right now.
The difference between miles and miles per gallon in your car.
Right. But you could buy coffee on chain today.
And one is miles per gallon. The whole network needs to be able to support, people need to believe that it is a network that would eventually support everyone using it, where, with stuff is like the unit of account is BTC, let alone the medium of exchange store of value, which are slightly easier. So if it's constrained as a medium of exchange, then people know it has no future. They'll preemptively know.
So you're saying that because in the future, everybody knows that if we all go buy coffee today, it's going to get too expensive to buy coffee tomorrow, which is why we rather just not buy coffee today?
Basically, yes. But people don't cogitate it that way.
I don't believe that. Like, that's not that you might think that, but I think most people don't believe that.
Can I just say,
you're correct if you say that sequence of thoughts. I was just going to say, you don't have this. They don't have this logical sequence of thoughts laid out like that. What normal people do is they do trial and error, and then they adjust. And so a lot of people would get curious about Bitcoin, and they would hear, and we missed these huge adoption super cycles, of which we've had like 4 or 5 or 6, where the price of Bitcoin is going up and up and up, and everyone's talking about us. And at that point, the fees become very high. It costs $10, $20 to send someone BTC. And then people think, you know what, this thing doesn't really seem like it's totally figured out right now. So I'm just going to leave, and I'm going to come back later when maybe they figure it out. And then when all those people leave, then everyone thinks, oh, that was weird. There was like a week, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was this day where everyone was talking about Bitcoin, but now they're not. And so I'm not going to talk about it either. So people are very social, and all these thoughts are very contagious. So it's not that each individual person has like reasoned it out like Aristotle, and they're saying, therefore, and such and such. But they try it out, and they say, you know what, this thing really hasn't been all figured out yet. And they are aware of that. And that fundamentally is because of large block-based related points.
Hold on. There's 3 events in Bitcoin's history when fees went up. 3. The first one was in 2017 when Antpool and ViaBTC. But hold on. But since then, since Antpool and ViaBTC were mining empty blocks, they were mining empty blocks, and Roger Ver was spamming the chain. So the fees went up a lot. So you would think
doesn't matter if Roger's the chain either, and it doesn't matter if it's only the quantity of 3 doesn't make any difference. The point is, it would happen again.
There's been 2.
Tomorrow there was a huge adoption super cycle in BTC. It would happen again. So that's the issue. Is that there's no way out.
This is so. I just don't buy the entire argument, and it's not one that just you've made. People are upset that the medium of exchange is not here. We hear this all the time, and it has nothing to do with the tech.
It's not here now. It's that there's no way of attaining it.
I think there's several things we can do without forking Bitcoin. Some of these proposals are very good and open up things in orders of magnitude that would probably be fine. But
no, the technical possibility is not the issue either. For example, BIP 300, my idea, you could do that on Bitcoin today without changing any lines of code.
I realize your proposal is one of many routes to that, but I'm saying
that's not the issue. The issue is the social.
It's a social thing.
The social,
but what is the real social thing? It has nothing to do with Bitcoin. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin Core, or even really Bitcoin at any technical level. It's a social thing.
It doesn't really matter what the source is. We're trapped here. That's why.
I don't think Bitcoin Core. Now it's everybody else. Are we blaming Bitcoin Core, or are we blaming people that are Bitcoin?
It's the social layer of Bitcoin Core.
Specifically. It's not that. It isn't that. It comes down to this. Medium of exchange is to follow the same pathway, maybe a magnitude or two faster than gold, but it'll follow the same one as gold. It took gold, just a measly 5,000 years from discovery to the point where it was used as a medium of exchange.
I completely disagree that the timeline of gold has any relevance to the timeline of Bitcoin.
No, it isn't. Obviously, wait, let me give you the caveat. Obviously, we're not in the age of, having a horse circulate the message that, everyone, there's this thing gold. So I would expect it to be faster.
Yes, or even having cars, the adoption of cars versus the adoption of horses.
I understand.
There's no reason why that would be.
I understand, but we are 16 years in. 16 years. And if anyone was on any sort of drug that made them feel as if they were going to flip the entire monetary system, not just from the advent of the technology that would do it, but to its broad, widespread adoption where over 50% of all humans transact everything in their daily lives with it in 15 years. They need, I want to know who they're buying their drugs from, because that's probably some good shit. And B, it might take literally 5 times that long. It could. I don't think it will. I think it's maybe on the order of 20
completely agree with
years.
you. I completely agree with you that the project of replacing fiat with a cryptocurrency should take longer than 15 years.
So that's why it's not happening right now.
I don't think
that's me. I
think you're saying that you don't know all the steps it will take to get there. Maybe it's an essential step that the first currency experiences a lot of success, but becomes overconfident and then wastes 10 years. Because we wasted 10 of the 16 years, really. The 2009 through 2014 were way more productive than 2016 to 2026, I think have mostly been static to backwards.
I don't think you're hearing me though. I don't think it's anything to do with Bitcoin. I think it's everything external to Bitcoin. I think the hardest things that have to happen to get widespread adoption.
No, I hear you.
We need to see the US. We need to see the US dollar collapse. I'll throw that out. I think that's the most probable step. So I don't know. Can you tell me how Bitcoin Core will take in a PR or soft fork that makes the US dollar collapse? Can you do that?
Bitcoin Core is like cookies.
I don't think Bitcoin Core.
I have to say,
I can't write a line of code in Bitcoin in C.
Had Vlad and TC, they've had their hand up politely we have to reward this politeness, I think, because they've been politely for literally 15 minutes or something. So I just have to throw that out there.
Well, I was just allowing the very passionate conversation to come to a pause there, but sure. I was going to jump up and bring up this sort of marketing issue that your fork has. I'm pretty stoked on Cashew and these other implementations of eCash. I find the use of the term eCash for your fork very confusing when clearly it should be called Pcash. But, I'll put that aside because I think actually the conversation you guys are having about this medium of exchange thing, it's one of these really busted narratives. It's a bad meme. The whole meme about money having these different form factors as if it were water and it's going from ice to liquid to a gas. The money has to go from, store of value to medium of account to unit of exchange. It's a really, really broken meme. And it really gets lame when we start applying it to the real world. And when it gets applied to Bitcoin, it's particularly bad because you cannot separate medium of exchange and store of value with Bitcoin. Every single time anybody receives or sends Bitcoin, it's a medium of exchange. I just had Bitcoin sent to me the other day from another continent, and it was an excellent medium of exchange. It's kind of like trying to separate trains and train tracks. It's just like a weird way in which it gets discussed and everyone's saying, oh, big problem. How the hell is it going to become a medium of exchange when it's literally been one since inception? I'm frustrated with the nature of that conversation.
It has not been used by 8 billion people since inception. So that's what we're talking about.
That's a totally different topic, and that's not about whether it's a medium of exchange.
Let me give you an example. TC, the Wright brothers flew a plane, right? Technically, that was a plane. Technically, it had a flight. Technically, it was in the air, right? All those things were box checked. Technically, wow, plane, we got it. But, it wasn't consumer air travel for quite some time that, displaced a lot of other forms. And that's all we're talking about. You're right in the sense of it is technically doing an exchange. Every peer-to-peer exchange on L1 is medium of exchange for many things. But when does it displace the majority of
but Daniel, the reason of me bringing that up is not just to nitpick. It's the fact that that meme of saying that it's these different phases and it's not there yet is being used to market forks to people and convince people that something drastic needs to change. When I agree with what you said, Daniel. I think it is actually multiple generations until you see at total widespread adoption of Bitcoin, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm at peace with the fact I might not see it in my lifetime. That's okay.
But even if that doesn't happen, for Bitcoin to survive, all it really takes is just somebody to want it. And if somebody wants it, and as long as they're taking it into self-custody, and there's a transaction fee that's getting paid. So the reason for that transaction, if it was because of a store of value or if it was because someone's going to go and put it on an exchange to buy JPEGs, doesn't really matter. As long as that there's a fee that's being paid, that's, in the end of the day, for the network, that's all that it matters. It doesn't care if you're using it as a store of value or using it as a medium of exchange or a unit of account. All that matters is that there's demand for Bitcoin and people are taking it into self-custody.
No, it matters very much how many people use Bitcoin, because if there is a parallel system that is similar enough but more popular, then it will be very, very hard for Bitcoin to have a future, let alone survive. It will just be, so you can imagine, like, if you had something where like Litecoin was used by 8 billion people somehow.
Paul, I think we agree, though. I don't think we disagree. I don't think we agree. What I'm saying
has more demand than Bitcoin.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
We've seen millions of attempts, haven't we? Haven't we seen millions of attempts to do just that?
I mean, your line of reasoning, because the fees should have killed when their fees were high and they made a really bad experience for Bitcoin. Bitcoin should have died already twice.
The fees disqualify the 8 billion people event.
No. I'm talking about, you said, like, once you specifically said when people come onto the chain to pay for coffee and then they can't because the fees went up, and it happened in 3 times in Bitcoin's history, you would think today there wouldn't be a Bitcoin already. Like, it would be done.
I think everyone maybe except Paul agrees that that's not really what's holding back adoption. He said Bitcoin Core, there's a lot of problems there that are holding back adoption. I don't agree at all. I think the problems are 2 things. The biggest ones is we need to see some of the collapse in the fiat monetary system that we've been long awaiting based on the fucking blank checks they're writing. And then number 2, things like capital gains tax treatment. So what I want to know, Paul, is what can Bitcoin Core developers do? Let's say the remaining core developers, what line of code can they write to exempt it from cap gains and to make the US dollar system collapse? Like, what does that C code look like? Is it an if statement and then it like goes and assassinates politicians in the code? How does it work? Because I think that's actually what's actually holding Bitcoin back. That's it.
It's ridiculous. But first of all, there is an answer. If there was more privacy in Bitcoin, it would de facto limit the enforcement of the capital gains taxation. So,
is it possible? Like, there's only really 2 vectors for adoption. One is number go up. We always get more moths to the fire when we're in a bull market. Okay, and the other one is pain. So we saw even recently. If you believe the reports that Iran was, taking Bitcoin for safe passage through the Straits or something like that, people, countries, companies, entities, they come across Bitcoin as a solution when they encounter enough friction or problem. The truckers in Canada were using it when they didn't have other options. So it's basically you get pain out in the real world that forces you to look for a solution that Bitcoin offers, possible aspects to solve the problem, or you get number go up, which always draws more moths to the fire. Like, basically those are the 2 vectors of adoption, truly. And whatever activity all of these participants, including you, Paul, and me, like what anybody does is not necessarily consequential at all compared to those other 2 things. So we can spin our wheels, we can do a whole bunch of activity, but we're not necessarily impacting something that has to basically happen organically through those other vectors.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to the social. It all comes down to the social aspect of, when I talk to people, lay people that have they've heard of Bitcoin. They don't know deeply the technicals, but they kind of understand the basics. Oh, there's not going to be any more printed over a certain number, so it's different than cash because, cash.
I hope that is right. What the person TC says, where nothing that we do matters and Bitcoin's success is guarenteed.
It's not. No, it's not.
But it's not up. Let me clarify. It's not up to any one person.
That would be phenomenal.
It's the total collaborative impact of everything. But the main two vectors are still always the same. It's either number go up, attracting new investors and speculators, or it's the pain out in the world where you need this permissionless sovereign money to overcome.
Sure.
TC, I would argue.
Isn't that what we're talking about, though? We're talking about that's partly what we're talking about when we talk about these different layer twos.
But that's not what the calculus is. But that's going to a level that the average person, the 95% of people, right, like who don't hold Bitcoin, a lot of them know what Bitcoin is. When I talk to them, they say, "Hey, I know what Bitcoin is." Yeah, I don't know, man.
I've already formed an opinion.
It's really volatile. I don't know if I can buy into that. I just trust the government, man. Like they will literally tell you this, especially people on the left. Oh man, I trust the fiat monetary system. Oh, the stable dollar. Oh, nothing like El Salvador, or not El Salvador, but like Venezuela or something will ever happen to us. We're white people in white people countries. That just doesn't happen here. What they need to have shaken to their fucking core is for the system to collapse. And it goes into the second thing that TC said. It goes into the fact that they need pain. It's the exact same shit that's happening with AI, dude. I've worked on these identity solutions forever, and they're all great solutions, and there's awesome stuff that can solve things in our world and make everything more efficient. But the sad part is for 10 years, we try to sell it to people as incremental improvements or cost reductions. No one cared. AI came along and fucking destroyed trust on the internet. And now you know what people are doing? Running around with their fucking heads cut off, being like, how do I authenticate AI agents, all this shit? And they're the exact same tech we built for the last 10 years. They're like, give that to me. What did it take? Extreme pain. Extreme pain.
I agree. Pain is a very good teacher.
And that's it.
Demand
that's it. Nothing
hard.
You do. No forks of Bitcoin can deliver the extreme pain that is necessary. I hope for the total and systemic collapse of the US dollar and the British pound.
Giving us a nice airdrop, man. I don't know why we're against him giving us a nice airdrop.
Matter about the feed if the collapse of fiat doesn't necessarily mean that BTC will succeed, because it could be a different cryptocurrency that succeeds.
But it's the best
it could
adoption.
Be a completely different one, other than that's not having nothing to do with ECX or BTC.
That's not true. But what I'm saying,
but if we had 8 billion users, then it really could not. It really could not be.
The through line here, my point is, what TC said is important, because he said there's two things that drive it, right? Number go up, and then the other one being like, you have a need, whether it's pain or something else extreme. I think we've kind of exhausted, not fully, but like to a large degree, the first cohort of people that attach to his first thing, which is number go up. Everyone who kind of cares about that and says, oh, this is like a kind of speculative black swan collapse asset and is deep into the economics and all that stuff, they kind of already know about Bitcoin and have either bought or they're like have a really nuanced position on it. Now we're working on the other 95% of humanity. And when I talk to them, especially in these first world countries, Euro, USD, they look at the government and they say, I trust that. It's just so stable. Oh my God, weird internet money. They still look at it that way because they have a trust in the structure. Until that structure is assaulted and fucks them over royally, they are not going to get off their ass. And so I think
what shitcoin, what feature do you think the market wants that you think Drive Chain could provide? Like, what's that one feature that Bitcoin is missing?
Who does it assassinate? Does it shoot bullets out of the blockchain? I'm just trying to understand.
The only reason I asked, I might have said maybe like shielded transactions from Zcash, but no one gives a fuck about Zcash. Maybe Monero. But no one gives a fuck about Monero. So the privacy part, people really don't see the market.
That you guys are right that no one actually wants any of this blockchain stuff. Right, I don't think that's true.
But the idea is that you want to build something that people are going to want. But I mean, that made you could have made that argument maybe 10 years ago when shitcoins were still kind of popular. People were looking for the next thing. But today, I mean, no one cares.
I think they don't care because we've done such a terrible job.
No, they don't care because they trust the system. They trust US dollar. They trust it. They need to be put in the frying pan and fucking boiled alive.
They're gonna get burned. I don't see any technology out there that's. I'm just trying to see which shitcoin, what altcoin, any of them, doesn't matter what, like actually the market wants, like something that has sustaining power that we know that Bitcoin is missing this one thing.
Can
Well, it's hard to explain it all like that, but yeah, okay. Monero is something that has adoption. I prefer this. We have this version of Z as a sidechain. I prefer this.
It's been trending to zero. Monero's been going down in Bitcoin terms for the last 12 years.
But that's not relevant. We're talking about actual people transacting with it. So we've had the darknet markets were the original use case for Bitcoin transactions. And now all these places that used to be Bitcoin only, they're now all Monero only.
What matters is, I understand you're really on about these transactions, but at the end of the day, it's the demand that matters, and Bitcoin's getting the demand.
That is the demand, the transaction demand. The transaction demand.
But the transaction, we have a subsidy for for another 100 years that could take care of that.
No, I'm not talking about the transaction fees. I'm talking about the users, the actual usage. You said, what's this thing that people want so much?
So one example. You're saying Monero's has a lot of transactions, but why do I care if people are transacting today? What does that do for me? Why should I care about that?
You're the one who said, you specifically asked what's name an altcoin that people actually use.
How much transactions are they doing on Monero?
You can look it up. It doesn't matter. The fact that the exchange, the darknet market,
I believing anyone using any exchanges. Yeah, Paul.
And then you can look at cryptofees.info. You can look at cryptofees.info, and it'll give you exact numbers.
Would it make it better for you if I started creating a bunch of transactions, dummy transactions on chain, to make it look like there's a lot of usage happening?
Why are you so gung-ho about these transaction fee? If you paid a real transaction fee, you would be a real user. So that would make me feel slightly better.
But a miner would benefit more right now from me buying a fuck ton of Bitcoin and raising the value of Bitcoin than paying a small.
But you guys are conflating lots and lots and lots of completely different things. Okay, the fact that Bitcoin will also be killed by a security budget has nothing to do with the fact that it also.
Let's talk about the security budget. I like
that's
this.
another bad meme. Paul, you got a lot of
many
stale
years.
memes.
Wait, how does the security budget? So you're
no, I think we already discussed the security budget for a long time. So I think we should move on with you and I.
I don't think we did. I think a lot of people try to make it seem like there's a security budget that we have to worry about, but I don't think anyone really articulated how Bitcoin dies. What is the budget that keeps Bitcoin secure? No one has that number. No one told me that number.
Well, let's say it's 4 cents a year that we pay to miners.
What?
Then at that point, the proof of work is just superfluous. It's a waste of time.
I don't understand. How does a transaction that I did 200,000 blocks ago have anything to do with being less secure if there's
because you can easily rewrite the chain.
How can you rewrite the chain that's already has all that work? It's got 200,000.
I'm talking about it from now on. Is the total amount of money paid to miners over the whole year is 4 cents for the whole year. So it's 1/1,000,000th of a cent per block.
So you think pools are going to go and start? You think pools are going to go to their miners and be like, "Listen, guys,
why are you dancing around the issue?" I'm just taking an extreme case to make it clear that
right. And I'm telling you that extreme case doesn't make any sense.
At some theoretical level, it does matter if the total amount of money paid to miners is $1.
Paul, do you acknowledge that there are other incentives for people to mine?
There's no demand for Bitcoin. Bitcoin dies. I agree with you. Yeah.
There's more incentives than just the income and profit. And in fact, over time, those other incentives grow in importance.
I mean,
over time, one of the incentives to attack Bitcoin also grow in importance, and they decrease in cost.
Right. So, for example, the idea is that you shouldn't be able to coordinate these things, right? Bitcoin mining should be decentralized to the point where you can't actually coordinate these things, and it goes against the interest of the pools.
We have to go one topic at a time.
This is boring because it doesn't happen for a long ass time. Can we talk about something I don't like how we moved on past the idea that
I know you guys you guys are moving all over the place.
Just Paul, answer me this, man. The majority of my family, I've been in Bitcoin for 15 years since 2011. The majority of my family has watched me. I've advocated to them a zillion times. They've seen the price go up. They still 15 years later. They're like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems crazy.
Right. That's not the same for the darknet market. The darknet market, everyone knew. If I want to buy whatever,
those people were technologically illiterate.
We have saturated.
Separate demand. You're saying the people who bought on on Silk Road were technologically.
I mean, I was one of them, and I think that was the most retarded thing we ever did. I don't understand why that was
they were able to get onion routing to work. They were able to get PGP.
They had onion routing to work. They had no coin control. They didn't know anything about the UTXO set. They don't know anything.
Skip to the part where
we got wrecked because of that.
Can we agree that we have roughly exhausted the over 80% of the cohorts of number go up diehards, dark market operators, and other highly technical.
The darknet people, we have negative. We had a 100% monopoly on darknet market.
Jesus Christ!
And now we lost that to Monero.
Yeah, we lost tens of people. Oh Jesus, tens of adoption people. Like my point is, these cohorts
going the wrong way.
When we're talking about broad adoption and why it isn't here.
Let me ask you this: Did you ever, if there was something like you had email was invented, but then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're losing. Why are we losing anyone?
Why didn't my grandfather jump on email?
Why are we losing?
Why did my grandfather jump on email? Wait, just a second. Hold on for just a second. My grandfather, email came out. I think he had like 15 years of life left or something. But he saw me using it, my dad using it, everyone using it. Didn't ever jump on. Had a computer. Used a fucking computer every day. Wouldn't do it. I don't think the email core developers didn't put in the right cool email extension or fuck around code to fuck with emails protocol that would convince him to use email. Guess what he had to do?
Yeah, we're not going to get every person, but we should fight to get as many users as we should possibly get. What if someone at Google was just like, email, if we get more people to adopt, if you had two companies, one of them is fighting tooth and nail.
I'm not saying the technicals don't matter at all. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, yeah, we can always do technically better. We can scale better. But I'm saying the actual dam here, the dam that needs to break is the fact that I can have my relatives who are not like programmers hear this for 15 fucking years and they still won't buy $1 of Bitcoin. Why? Because they trust the government. They don't trust Bitcoin. It's a social problem. Why? Because they look at it and it's been kind of stable and only inflated at an average of like 2.5% a year. So that makes them happy and safe in their security blanket. And what I'm saying is the thing that's going to send all those people running out of the burning theater is the fire. And we unfortunately don't have one yet. So I think we need that. I think it's nothing that Bitcoin Core can do. It's nothing your fork can do, unfortunately.
But didn't you ignore? I addressed this point already. Like, let's say it's tomorrow, the fiat currencies collapse.
They'll run for something, and we need to be that something.
Exactly. How do we guarantee that it's BTC?
Well, I don't think they're going to be running for the nearest shitcoin. I don't think they're going to do that.
By building the best product that attracts, it's easiest to use, lowest cost, has the best features, etc. Building the best.
I think it's going to be hard to offset that brand, though. I think you're going to run into some. I mean, that's a multi.
Of course, the brand is very, very, very important. That's what I'm saying. Is when the Bitcoin blocks fill up, it hurts the brand. So the large blockers were right about that. Because people think, oh, this is costing me $20 to send. If I wanted to send my friend $10 worth of Bitcoin just to show them how it works, you couldn't even do that at certain points.
But we have meaningful capacity. We have meaningful capacity offloading to L2s.
That's what we need. That's what we need to have, but we don't have.
I think we will get recursive.
Are you kidding? What about all the normies with IBIT? You think they have to worry about transaction fees? What are you talking about?
We need real offloading to real L2s so that people actually learn the difference between Bitcoin and custodial fiat. That's what we need. And we need it and then we need them to be merge mined so that the revenues go to L1 miners so that as they grow, everyone is on the same team. Everyone is, the more money people pay, the more money miners get. The miners stay loyal to the users and not to like weird other stuff, like whatever they're doing now, optics or whatever they're loyal to now. That is what we need. And that is what we don't have. And that is what for some reason, we can't get, even though it's served up on a silver platter. Mostly because people here who are saying, oh, everything's fine, we don't need to do anything. So again, I hope you guys are right, because that would mean that Bitcoin will probably do really well, regardless of what happens. And I hope that is the case. But I unfortunately, I just think that you guys barely, no offense, but some of these points were litigated a long, long time ago. People barely know the difference between stuff like dollar per unit and dollars, basic unit. People ask questions about like, oh, hey, what about this? Stuff that was figured out years and years and years ago. And, a lot of these ideas are just terrible. And I don't trust any of you guys when you say everything's going to be fine. I just think that what you guys say is just mostly nonsense.
I don't think it's going to be fine. I think that, unless we have something that sends people for the exits in a crazy catastrophic way, I think that's going to be the next big lever of adoption.
Okay, imagine you're right, and everyone rushes into Bitcoin because it's got the best brand. So if fiat collapses, everyone rushes into Bitcoin. What will happen then? What will happen immediately?
They're probably going to go towards, if you really want to ask, they're going to go towards apps like Cash App and others that are roughly custodial. And they are going to...
And then the fiat regime that just collapsed, what will they do to Cash App?
We don't know yet. They might try to attack them. It might be like the same gold.
All this is weak. You guys deserve better thoughts than this. I feel bad.
What are you? No, I'm saying
I hate to be living in your brain because
Paul, wait a second. Paul, please wait a second.
Paul, let Daniel speak.
Wait a second here. I'm trying to walk you through what's probable, whether you have your fork involved or not. Okay, if something happens catastrophically to the current financial order, people will run for the exits. They will probably, whether it's your coin or another, they're going to go to a centralized solution, or they're going to go to custodians. Why? Because that's human nature, right? Not because it's not the right coin or whatever the fuck. It's just
because it's where the off-ramps are.
Yeah, that's where the off-ramp, all sorts of reasons why, but it has nothing to do with this particular token and its fucking nerd code that it's written with. Nothing about that. It's all humans. They don't know, like you said, you made a good point. They don't know. Yes, the people are retarded, Paul. I agree with you. And the guru are retarded. So that's my point is that's what's going to happen. Retarded things are going to happen, whether you have your smart Paul coin or you have your, what you would call dumb Bitcoin. It's all going to look kind of the same. And I think at that point, we're still going to have things like the covenant stuff we need that will open up orders of magnitude of L2 activity, and we'll be able to support it if we need to. But it's about the need, and the need arrives when the pain starts, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
Wait, Daniel, if fiat kind of hobbles along long enough such that pain doesn't come soon enough, does Bitcoin have problems if we've scaled too far and there's virtually no on-chain activity?
I don't think so. Personally, I think it ends up I think there's like a couple levels. I think one level would be replacing gold, right? And that's still achievable without the catastrophic, euro and USD all collapse and we're like in a new monetary order. Do we accept the yuan?
That's only like a 20x away or something.
Yeah. I think the gold thing is where it sits until we have an extreme case, and that's probably where it hovers, right? And then you need something that
like
attacks
$1 million a coin.
Fiat.
Yeah, I think $1 million a coin is going to be very sticky for a very long time. Once we reach those.
But how much is milk in that world? Like, are we paying $20 for a gallon of milk?
It's equivalent 1 million. Equivalent 1 million to today's equivalent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who knows? But anyways, I can see that happening. Paul, you had a response? Everything we said retarded.
No, I don't have anything. Nothing comes to mind.
Why don't you trust us anymore? Where do we steer you wrong? Bitcoin's working exactly perfectly right now.
Just a moment ago, you said, I don't remember exactly what it was. It was before the space rug, but I was like, this guy's seriously asking a question like this now in 2026?
What was it?
And I don't remember what it was, but it's happened many times where you guys think, like, this is stuff people have thought about like 10 years ago. Even just a few moments ago, you're like very confused as to whether or not I was talking about transactions being adopted, and you thought I was talking about security budget. And I just think, well,
the reason I thought that is because transaction fees. If there's people are transacting, that's
But the point is, you're not even grasping, you're not even following what I'm saying. So why would I trust that you when you say everything's going to be fine? It's like you have a doctor who's treating cancer patients, and then it's like a 4-year-old girl who doesn't know what cancer is trying to say.
10 years ago, I said Bitcoin's going to be fine, and it's fine today.
Mr. Hodl, you just have to connect the dots, bro. Just connect the dots.
Got to connect them. So I'm just saying, but you thought Bitcoin by this point was fucked, right? Like, you were convinced for a very long time that Bitcoin would have been fucked.
Talking about me?
Yeah.
No, I've been a supporter of Bitcoin the whole time until now.
Right, but you wouldn't want to
proactively worry.
Question for you, Paul. So until now,
no, I have a huge Bitcoin. I feel like an idiot now for doing it so much when it was literally becoming a monopolist cult. And now I'm very concerned.
Now
I still think
it wasn't a cult in 2017. Now it's a cult.
You're not going to dump
it wasn't.
though,
it was more the earlier version of Bitcoin was
BTC.
more open to like discussing ideas. Now we don't get anything like that.
I think by 2017 it's pretty much what we have today. I think it's the same crowd.
Paul, are you hodling your BTC moving forward?
Yeah,
though you think
of course I am. Yes.
But at a certain point, you'd probably dump it if you thought it was really going to die, right?
Yeah, we need to know like the price ratio and also the other information about so a lot is up in the air.
What would make you dump your coins and leave permanently, do you think?
BTC?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, if the price of BTC is crashing against ECX is skyrocketing, and it seems like and for the right reasons, like when people talk, they say stuff like they like play old recordings of spaces and they say, well, I can't believe these people thought it didn't even matter if Bitcoin got adopted. And they point and laugh and they say, what a crazy group of lunatics.
No.
It's say, mass adoption. I was right.
We're talking about mass adoption. I don't care if there's mass adoption. Obviously, I care if Bitcoin gets adopted by enough people.
And then people would say like, oh, it doesn't even matter how much money we pay the miners. That doesn't even matter how much proof of work there is in Bitcoin. If people started saying stuff like that, like if they started saying like all these normal people look into it for the first time and they're like, oh yeah, Paul is actually right about all this stuff. And
what
I think another thing would be if BTC
didn't you just say that people don't understand even what they're talking about? So how are they going to grasp that Paul is right about this stuff?
Paul's right about this stuff.
Well, because I think it's partly motivated reasoning, of course.
What Paul's
Paul, you're just recycling old memes. These memes need to be upgraded.
I love
Look,
it.
we all learn the memes when we're new. You learn that the miners are going to be in trouble if they're not making if there's not enough fees.
Mr. Hodl just said he said like a few moments ago he said that it was true that if it fell to a really low, he said it on 3 different occasions. In fact, he said it in the other space as well.
I said what?
That's his
opinion.
Do you
disagree?
I said what? What did I say?
That if the total proof of work, the total money paid to miners.
Mimetic. The way in which you're talking about it in extremes is oversimplified. It doesn't take into account the real nature of the landscape today.
No,
I said,
hold on. I said Bitcoin could be oversecured today and you wouldn't have any idea. That's what I said.
I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about far future. If the far future, that's why it's so difficult to talk to you guys. You don't even remember what you said moments ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got squirrel
brains. You said if it's $5 total paid in transaction, every single transaction fee added up for a year, and it falls to some super low amount.
So I was saying to you again. I would keep repeating this: if there's no demand for Bitcoin, Bitcoin dies. So yes, if the value of UTXO is very low and people aren't transacting, but that's not like. I think everyone is aware if there's no demand for something.
So that's what he said, TC. He said if no money's being paid to the miners and Bitcoin dies.
That's different than Bitcoin demand. If there's people still buying Bitcoin on Coinbase, hold on. If people are buying, if they're still in 130 years.
Okay, this is another thing you guys keep confusing, and it's getting tiresome. The Bitcoin transactions
you're not talking about reality. You're talking about a hypothetical situation in the distant future.
Hold on a second. If there is demand, if people are still buying Bitcoin, if there's demand for Bitcoin,
I'm not talking about the coin.
What are you talking? That's the value. The value of the coin is
the transaction.
Okay, Paul. Listen again. If there's demand for Bitcoin, listen to me.
This is like if I've done something in a past life.
You're not going to listen.
Yes.
Just take a second.
Maybe I was like,
take a second and listen.
I don't need to listen.
This is why you're forking off.
Bad karma.
So if there's people going on Kraken and Coinbase and they're still buying Bitcoin on there, but they're not transacting on chain, there's still demand for Bitcoin. The value there is still there. So what happens?
There's demand for Bitcoin, the coin. You understand that this is a different thing.
Businesses that sell you Bitcoin, the coin. We're on the same page. Like Coinbase,
we're not talking about that.
So
we were never talking.
Does Coinbase now have an incentive to mine?
We were never talking about that.
Does Coinbase have an incentive to mine if there's still demand for Bitcoin?
Possibly, yes. But then they would be paying the transaction fee,
right? But there's demand for Bitcoin. That's exactly what we're trying to say. If there's demand for Bitcoin,
right? I agree with you. A past version of you that said if there's no demand for Bitcoin, then it dies. Now you're trying to contrive some weird
fees and transactions. You're talking about mining fees and transactions, and I'm telling you, if there is demand for Bitcoin, Bitcoin stays alive. Even if there's very little transaction fees, Coinbase will subsidize the mining. You'll have companies subsidizing that shit. As long as Bitcoin is in demand.
Kind of like Visa is like a company.
As long as
it's
Bitcoin,
like you have Visa, and you say, "Hey, is there any demand for Visa?" And he says, "Well, hey, listen,
there's no one out there using the Visa card.
There's no one out there using the Visa card. There's no one out there using the Visa card in stores, but you can buy the collectible Visa plastic card on eBay." And you're saying, "Well, then there's still demand for Visa."
That's not the same.
It's just you mixing up the words. It's not a real argument. It's just you mixing up two different
Bitcoin UTXOs, and people are going to these exchanges and continue buying Bitcoin.
Can I go back to TC? Can we just go back to TC and hear the meme? What's the meme? I want to hear the meme that I'm repeating. Supposedly, I'm just uncritically repeating some meme I heard from someone else.
You're basically saying one person is
I'm
saying
the only one here with original thought.
I'm saying there's no demand for Bitcoin. Bitcoin dies, and then you're saying 2 seconds later, I said if there's no demand for transactions, like I'm telling you, if there's no demand for Bitcoin, if people don't demand Bitcoin, of course Bitcoin dies. There's no demand for it anymore.
Me, an effective measurement of the demand for Bitcoin transactions is the total security budget amount. So that's a great measurement of value of demand.
I have a question for you. Do you think your personality in particular has held back BIP 300 from being adopted?
Couldn't care less. But no, I don't think so. Because you think everything else has been held back as well. Because of course I was much nicer about it in 2015, 2016. So actually, I don't think it
was mostly a joke. I'll take it personally.
Yeah. No, I actually think I've been super nice about the whole thing.
Right.
And it's just like, I'm very humble as well. So I want to hear from TC this meme.
Security budget.
That's a meme.
Yeah, it's a meme.
It's definitely a meme.
But I wrote this giant article with like graphs and papers and stuff. Meme. 2021.
Did you say in that article
had all this stuff that all these people,
what's the budget that keeps it secure?
Well, it's kind of a silly question, as you are very well aware. It's kind of like, well, if we're trying to secure a nation, how much money does the army need? And it's like, well, no one knows.
But
like the exact
miners are not the army.
But you know that
that's the meme. You're talking about a disparate, distributed group of people competing against one another as if they're a unified, organized, top-down organization.
It's obvious
what are you talking about?
This is one issue. So the fact that you guys blow it off is that this is exactly what I'm talking about, why we're all screwed. Because it's obvious that at least one dimension that people should at least discuss and have some kind of vague plan for getting to at some point.
When you stick around for long enough and you see the reality actually play out multiple times and you see extreme situations resolve the way they do, maybe you update your meme a little bit.
What do you mean about securing nations? Like miners secure the transaction. So obviously if I had $100 million transaction, I might want to wait more than 2 or 3 confirmations. I might want to wait 6 confirmations or 10 confirmations to feel secure. That there's enough work.
But if it's 10 cents each block, or if it's just $20 each block, then it's only going to add very much waiting 6 blocks.
So 10 cents Bitcoin. There's no demand for Bitcoin if it's if the block reward.
I'm thinking there's 2,000. To say there's 2,000 transactions in every block, and each of them pays 1 cent per transaction. So it's $20 is worth the value of each block.
In that world, Bitcoin is right, but it's a good thing that we still have the subsidy for quite some time. That is.
Okay, I'm glad that we agree that it is at some point it becomes an issue.
100%. Did the block size limit get eliminated in this hypothetical situation?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
We're shooting from the hip here, man. This is how we do things, sir.
Hey, I got one for you. If there's no more oxygen left, we all stop breathing and die.
I mean, if Bitcoin, if there's no one transacting Bitcoin in 120 years, yeah, that's a problem. I mean, Bitcoin, but how do you fucking know what's going to happen in 120 years? I don't understand.
And why are we fixing this right now? Why are we pretending that we're going to fix this right now?
At a time
we don't even know that this actually becomes an issue.
It's been higher than ever before in the fucking history of Bitcoin, besides 2 years ago. The reward.
It's not about.
The security of Bitcoin, the value of the block reward that secures the Bitcoin blockchain has been going up. It's not been going down.
It's not about fixing it today. It's like people have lost the like the will to even like bother like discussing it like any normal person would.
It's fucking retarded. I mean, I'm all about you forking Bitcoin, as you said, and giving us an airdrop and like doing all that. I'm not against that, but the idea is fucking retarded.
He compared it to us running out of oxygen on planet Earth when it's literally built in to the argument for Bitcoin that the transaction revenue will grow over time, and Satoshi has quotes about in 20 years they'll either be very large volume or no volume.
Like say $10 million, and each UTXO value is valued much higher than it is today. But there's, maybe in Bitcoin terms, the fees aren't as high as a 50 Bitcoin block subsidy, but the value is much greater. Does that still like secure Bitcoin as long as Bitcoin is
the security budget? It's not even one of the top 5 issue, even though it is a huge
what's the other
issue?
I mean, I feel like we tackled the security budget. What's the other one?
No, we tried to, it's adoption in general. It's just that if you have 2 cryptocurrencies and one is fighting tooth and nail to get as many users as you can.
Do you have an example of a cryptocurrency that got demand that people wanted that had staying power like Bitcoin?
Well, yeah, with the USDT on Tron.
That's dollars. Those are dollars. That's USD. Dollars are very popular before Bitcoin. They're going to be popular for a very long time. I don't think dollars are going to die anytime soon, right? Like we're going to see dollars relatively pretty strong. That's not a cryptocurrency. That's dollar. That's a digital dollar. It can be ran on any blockchain. It doesn't even need a fucking blockchain. They use blockchain for arbitrage, like to fool out like regulators.
No, I don't think that's quite the case. But one of the things people like about it is that it has some blockchain,
and it's censorable. It could be frozen and sanctioned. People like that.
Maybe before, when they thought there was some kind of censorship resistance because blockchain magic, maybe it made sense. But now, too many funds have been frozen. Too many funds get seized. It's fiat, man. It's a Zelle. It's Zelle 2.0 it's a worldwide Zelle. There's no blockchain there. Who gives a shit?
Tether is making a lot of yield on those bonds, though.
Right, exactly. Tether's making a huge amount of money. But I don't think that's not really like, I don't think there's no, you don't need to have it. If we had an example already of one that was getting users, then that one would probably already be taking over the crypto world. And so what I'm worried about is why would we rest where we have a big lead? And why would we, it's just like a tortoise and the hare situation.
Again,
why would we just say,
think that it's just some action by you or someone else that's missing when it's truly a chaotic and unorganized organic growth and adoption story, like every other innovative technology that's ever come along.
The thing is, this kind of already happened. Let me speak here. So I was watching some Roger Ver videos because why not? And I saw him talking about, I wasn't there, but it was like 2017 or 16 or something like that. You had huge spikes of usage, actual usage. You had Steam, the one you buy games in, was actually adopting Bitcoin. You had a lot of companies like this, actual companies that people use day to day. Yeah, that they were actually adopting Bitcoin. But then one of the big reasons they stopped is because the fees were becoming so high that it didn't make sense anymore for them to accept it.
They never adopted Bitcoin. They adopted BitPay, which was they were getting fiat and they're using a merchant processor to fucking get dollars. They never adopted Bitcoin.
Sure, might be.
No, it's not might be. That's what happened. It was BitPay. BitPay, like using BitPay. It's like
BitPay is good. BitPay still counts as Bitcoin adoption.
That's not adopting Bitcoin.
That's besides the point. That's beside the point.
It at least adds one element of Bitcoin. It goes from being zero fiat to like being,
I got good news for you guys. BitPay still exists, and now we also have Square that made that even a bigger thing. So great news. Bitcoin has more merchant adoptions today in that case than ever before.
Sure, but the thing is, what happened, or at least what seems to have happened, is that...
I'm feeling fucking dumber and dumber, man. I'm supposed to be the dumb guy here.
Over Lightning doesn't count.
So what seems to have happened is that you had growing usage, but then it plateaued and stopped because of the fees. If we had drive chains or any other good scaling solution, we could have continued growing, or at least So
how many merchants are
that's
tied
what I mean
into
here.
Cash App now?
What?
How many merchants are tied into Bitcoin through Cash App now, or through Square rather?
I don't know. More or less, I don't know.
Many more. So are we not scaling?
Okay, so
I mean, if you consider BitPay, like merchants tied into BitPay as scaling Bitcoin in those prior years, then you should also consider
the thing is,
tied
it
into
took way much.
Square.
The thing is, it took way much time than it could, and that's a bad thing because we were on a let's say Microsoft. They said Microsoft and Dell, whatever. So they were accepting Bitcoin, but then they stopped.
I don't
right?
think you can. But you can't put. I mean, you can't put the horse before what is it? The cart before the horse before the cart.
Yeah.
Whatever order it is, you can't put
the horse goes in front.
The horse goes in front, so you can't put the cart before the
cart
horse.
There's no cart horsing word, yeah.
Is it a cart horse or a horse cart? I don't know, man.
Yeah, but my main point here is that if we had working scaling solutions there, in which people wouldn't need to pay absurd transaction fees.
You think they would have stuck around, and then it would have been more viral, and it would have built and built, and then exploded.
I mean, not forever, obviously. Not forever, obviously. But way more than it.
No, you're obviously right.
Okay, wait. No,
that's exactly right.
I disagree. So I think Bitcoin would have still gone through cycles, and it's not just fees going up that caused people to leave. It's crashing of price that caused people to leave, which, by the way, coincided, right? I mean, typically fees go up when things are crazy, and then they crash when, things crash, and that's when people leave. So you might say, oh, they left because the fees were high, but you also, if you're actually paying attention, you might realize they left because the market crashed. So, I mean, you could say it both ways.
And I think the people that were buying computers or whatever from Dell, they were buying it because of speculation. Because when you buy something with Bitcoin, you're not really buying it you probably believe in something on Bitcoin, or if you don't believe it, it's like the darknet market kind of thing. I think there's some other motive.
I think that the amount of commerce that was happening on Bitcoin in those early years is heavily overstated. I mean, it was probably less than
tens of dollars
of commerce. Yeah, it was tiny. Yeah. I mean, how many people really bought Dell computers using Bitcoin? Hundreds at most, thousands. Maybe, probably not.
Tiny. So why do you think Dell and Microsoft and
Marcus, I was almost the 11th employee at Coinbase, and I sold, and I literally connected Tiger Direct as a merchant, sitting in a closet in Coinbase's first office, which was an apartment on Biloxi by 4th and King. And so fully involved in that. It was all everyone was willing to kind of add it as a fun little gimmick. It drove hardly any demand. There was not very much volume. It was sort of and people didn't really understand the tax implications.
It was too early.
And I just want to throw cold water on this. I know everyone's going to fucking hate me because I'm bringing up the government. I do this, by the way. I avoid it because I just don't want fucking problems. I don't report that I bought Bitcoin. I don't want to spend it and incur fucking capital gains. I don't want to touch any of that shit. I just accumulate it like Smog the Dragon, and I'm waiting for bad things to happen to the government so I can spend it more freely, or them to clear cap gains in the Clarity Act or something like that. Why? Not because I'm deathly afraid, but it is something where I just don't want to fuck with it. And that's the vast majority. My aunts and uncles and everyone that's watched me and has this social aversion to it. If you tell them, oh, well, don't worry, it's cap gains when you buy your fucking Starbucks. And technically you're going to owe 7 cents cap gains on that. And there's going to get a line item report. But don't worry, TurboTax is really good. And they're going to tell you to fuck yourself repeatedly. And that's actually what is causing people not to adopt it. Because that is a shit show, and we have to clear up the shit show first. And nothing Bitcoin Core can do, I have not seen a line of code that will prevent my uncle from having to file cap gains tax on his fucking latte. I have not seen how Bitcoin Core can do that. I am willing to be convinced.
I agree that, but you agree there's multiple hurdles that have to be jumped. So it's if the software wouldn't handle it anyway, then it's kind of a moot point that it would also have bad tax treatment. So there's multiple hurdles. So it's not just even if we clear both those hurdles, we might find out, surprise, there's a third hurdle.
Marcus, I would say in response to you and your claim that these companies dropped Bitcoin support because of fees, I would actually
That's one of the reasons.
Well, I would say they dropped it primarily because it was such low volume and usage, it wasn't worth supporting, right? So like, and maybe that got killed even further by fees. But prior to the fee spikes, you probably had what, tens, dozens, hundreds of people using it
Yeah, but
versus
it was the
millions of
fees
people using fiat.
also,
And
because the problem with
you're
the blocks
supporting
fill up.
this
It
monetary
also
network for no reason, basically, right?
it's also confusing for people. So people would call like customer service. They'd say,
Right,
"I don't
sure.
know, I don't have
So that
confirmation."
compounds
So
it
even
because
the fee
you're
they
already
would
dealing
broadcast
with
it as.
such a small cohort of people who even want to buy computers using
I know,
Bitcoin,
but this
and
is the
then you're
issue: is
dealing with all
we
of
need to
this.
grow. We want to take
But
seriously, and I'm not
No,
saying that it's a
you're
matter of life or
you're
death
missing the main point. You're
tomorrow. But
missing
I
the
am
main
saying
point,
that
Paul.
if we can't just take an attitude that it doesn't matter at all for like
Gigabrain Paul.
permanently for like
You're
10 years.
missing the point. The point is that during those early years, it was too early. Even if you had scaled perfectly and there wasn't any fee spikes, it would have been too early. And they probably would have just been like, well, that was a fun experiment, but we still are only getting 100 orders, every month from Bitcoin. Why are we supporting this shit
Why do you think they
when there's nobody
stopped?
ordering it?
The thing is, if the software was good enough, they could just have kept it there. If it was good enough
No,
that
I mean it's
it was just
ongoing
working.
support. You don't just. I mean that's not
It takes
true,
one
right?
human being to be assigned to update it and fuck around
Yeah.
with it constantly. Like, look, one person looks a $300,000 engineer. They spend like 20% of their time on it. Yeah, you're committing 60 grand. You better have fucking 60 grand in sales. If you don't, guess what? It's getting yanked. Period.
And it was
Done.
too early, and
Are
that's
you
the point, right?
sure?
You can't, and this is what I'm talking about with the fucking cart before the horse. You can't do that because you actually need legitimate adoption, right? Before you can actually support it. So I think a lot of these companies jumped the gun. They supported it too early, thinking that there was enough Bitcoiners to drive, real commerce, and there wasn't. There just simply wasn't. It had, I mean, and the fees exacerbated it during that hype cycle. And then the crash afterwards exacerbated it even more. And so they just dropped off like flies. That's it.
Weren't you guys saying it was BitPay that was actually processing those payments?
It was Coinbase, BitPay. There's a few of them. There was a few merchant processors that I had worked with over the years. I remember at Mozilla in 2012, I had Brian and Fred and then Jesse in to compete for like accepting Bitcoin donations at Mozilla, for instance. So yeah.
So isn't it their job to make it keep working and not just a random engineer that has to be like they're doing all the stuff?
No, I mean, look, you still have to have some integration. Sure, you can have a service provider that does some of your accountancy.
This is not constant integration. It should be like, yeah, it probably needs some maintenance, but it shouldn't need too much. That's the thing.
But then, okay, so a lot of it was the reality of all these things about tax filings. I remember we didn't actually, there was a misfire when we were accepting Bitcoin first because we had to do all these crazy weird tax treatments to it. So at first when I got an agreement on who was going to handle it, then they were like, oh, well, I don't know if we can touch it. Then it went to the lawyers and they fucked around with it. And it was just like, there was so much at that early time that prevented people from cleanly just accepting it. I think there's a lot more fertile ground for it now, but we've exhausted the 5% of the world who are just going to hold Bitcoin because they see this sort of like black swan asset that we've exhausted that percentage. Now we have to move on to my uncle, Earl. You have to tell him, you have to tell Paul, maybe we get you on a little call or something and he's a lay person and you can just say like, hey man, like what can I put into eCash that's going to get you really excited? And he's going to look at you and say, bro, I've got like a index mutual fund. I think it buys like Toyota and I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. I just think this is crazy internet money still. Because like I see it going all over the place, and like, can you make it as stable as USD, please? And you're going to say, God damn it, I don't have a PR for that yet. And then he's going to say, well, you let me know when you do, and then I'll jump right on. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but I've said in the past in this space or whatever, the other one that rugged is people. There are many different people who adopt for different reasons. So you have Canadian truckers, you have people in war-torn countries, you have people with hyperinflation. Then you have privacy enthusiasts. Then you have people doing illegal stuff. So you have all kinds of different people adopting. Some people will adopt just because they want to get ahead of something new. Some people will adopt because the network, they'll adopt later. So once you have 80% of the population, the last 20% is very easy.
But in what you just said, you just skipped it. You made a huge leap there. Okay, let's roll that.
I'm saying there's a whole process where each, one stage leads to the next.
I know, but actually, I think that's all part of a cohort. Let's say that cohort is number go uppers, black market people, dissidents, and like people in extreme hyperinflation countries. Let's just put them in a cohort. I think they're kind of.
But even a lot of people are in like medium inflation countries.
But I don't think they even give a fuck. I mean, I think you have to really. You can't just slowly boil the toad. We need to
like 5% on your.
I think we need to really hurt people. I think people need to be hurt dramatically. Like we need to have.
But also there's another like actual like verifiable adoption happening that is actually passive. Like I think the example of Square is tremendous because you've got millions of merchants out there with Square point of sale systems that just had this feature turned on, whether they wanted it or not.
Isn't it too early? We're just saying it's putting the cart before the horse.
But the point is, when you compare that to BitPay and these other companies that had to like build this thing grassroots and try to actually get people to sign on, I think we're already at a very much further stage as far as adoption goes. So I feel like all this hand wringing is not even acknowledging like where we are today versus just a few years ago.
Well, I think the other thing, I mean, a lot of what's holding Bitcoin back or had held Bitcoin back in the past is regulatory, like fear, right? And so now that you have, some regulatory arbitrage with things like Spark, and you can have users who download a custodial Lightning wallet that is kind of skirting regulations and able to pay people that paid merchants that are being enabled by Lightning. I mean, the whole thing kind of kicks off when you start skirting the regulators, right? I mean, I think that's ultimately what we're doing.
That's why
we're trying to figure out these avenues to skirt the regulators, but then do things with UX that actually works for end users.
So like Square and BitPay, those as people, because this is weird because this conversation goes in like a big circle where it's kind of like Square and BitPay, those are much better than nothing. But those are worse than real adoption. So when I'm imagining real adoption, I'm saying like, okay, there's like some people who adopt it. They're tech enthusiasts. They're the darknet market
on
people.
The doors of the merchants nearby us, and we tell them how to actually use
Bitcoin. And then you got your Francis Puyo, and he builds a circular economy
set up our Lightning channels directly with them, right?
Something like that.
I did have,
so that's what I'm.
There's a channel here in Brazil of a guy that literally did this kind of thing. He went to actual random people, and teach them how to use Bitcoin, like kind of like Roger Ver, I think did probably. But then I once thought about, it could be cool to do something like that. But then I started thinking, like, in today's Bitcoin, actually doing that sounds like really, really painful because I have lived through like the ordinals craze of high fees and whatnot, and I remember trying to do and like that's
it's very easy. It's very easy today.
What wallet do I even say to them to use? Because like if I said just use an on-chain wallet,
here's the thing. So I mean you can initially you send them to use a custodial wallet like a Spark wallet. Right. And maybe the trade-offs are shitty if you are having $1 million stored in that wallet, but it's not a big deal if you have a few bucks worth of Bitcoin stored there. Like, who cares if a few bucks of Bitcoin ends up getting rugged because Spark providers are coordinating and
who's gonna teach them to do this?
You don't need to teach them anything. That's the whole point. The UX of Spark is you download a wallet, you can literally start to receive Bitcoin over Lightning immediately with no inbound liquidity constraints. Everything just works, and you can pay LN invoices. But it is though, because it's still paying atomic swaps.
If you don't open a channel.
No, it is because, Paul, I mean, I don't think you understand Spark, and that's okay. But the whole point is that you are now in a state chain sharing a UTXO, and then on the back end, you're swapping your UTXOs atomically with HTLCs to pay Lightning invoices. So ultimately, under the hood, everything's still happening on Bitcoin, right? You're still paying HTLCs and paying LN invoices from your Spark wallet, and then on chain, you are sharing a UTXO with all the other Spark users. I mean, it's not like it's like Fugazi, right? I mean, it's real. Now, whether it's trusted or trust minimized, no, of course not, right? There's trade-offs. But for an entry user, for someone who just wants an easy UX and you're just trying to sell them on Bitcoin, you're saying, hey, look, here is Bitcoin. Here's a wallet where you can download. You don't need to KYC. You don't need to sign up for an account. You literally just fucking download this wallet. You can receive Bitcoin immediately, both on chain and over Lightning. It's a single unified balance, and you can pay LN invoices if you're trying to buy a coffee at a Square merchant. You can pay somebody who says, hey, pay me on chain. Right? I mean, like, that's kind of the point, right? It gets the toes wet. It's easy to download. It's
all that
easy
is
to
fine.
use.
That's great.
It's partially custodial, right? I mean, I get it. I'm not trying to deny that it doesn't have trade-offs, but the UX is there. And then, maybe they get interested. Maybe they actually start saving in Bitcoin. Maybe they start using it. And then that's where they become more of a sovereign user. And, that hopefully at that point, they would take Bitcoin they've earned or saved at a certain threshold on chain. But I think the UX in terms of onboarding people is getting much, much better and is almost even there already with these newer things like Spark. Right. And then, I mean, everyone has a fucking in America. So like most people, you can just be like, oh yeah, here's Cash App. Like you didn't notice that little Bitcoin symbol there? You can buy Bitcoin on Cash App. Right. Most of the friends I've onboarded into Bitcoin just started onboarding through Cash App because they already had Cash App. Whenever we would go out and get like lunch together and they would pay the bill, I'd literally just send them sats on Cash App. And then they've built a little Satoshi balance on Cash App. They realize, oh, that's gone up in value. And then I start orange filling them and say, yeah, you should start saving it. And then maybe a year later, they say, wait, like, this has gone up way more in value. Why is that? And I say, because Bitcoin is valuable. You should probably think about taking it in self-custody. I mean, but you need to have these on-ramps. And I think a lot of the times, most normies need easy, accessible UX. And that is mostly available
I agree
through
with all this.
custodians and through, trustodial arrangements like Spark. I mean,
I agree with all that. The problem is only so many people can jump.
Go ahead.
The problem is only very few people can jump to the next stage. And when they do, then they're going to think, well, I guess this doesn't work.
Well, I mean, I think when they jump to the next stage, I would hope that, well, I mean, I guess you're saying only so many people can
Do we activate covenants?
Jump to the non-custodial stage of taking it on chain.
Yeah, many people. There is a very high amount. I don't know the relative proportion, but there is a high amount of demand for sovereign transactions.
I mean,
there absolutely is.
I think all that demand is being met. Right? Because we're
I don't think so. I mean, I find that.
Okay, can I jump in and disagree? Because right now, when you look, I got a notification that someone who blocked me has joined as a speaker. Okay. So if you look at CoinMarketCap today, you're gonna see that Bitcoin is at 54% dominance, which means that half of the market is in something else. And when we're having these conversations, we're ignoring that something else, and we're assuming that it's just casinos and gambling and shitcoins. But the fact that matters right here is that Ethereum, for example, has 100,000 Bitcoin wrapped on it as WBTC, and it's larger than Lightning, larger than Liquid, larger than Arc and Spark and whatever there is under the sun. And I don't hear anyone tweeting about it and virtue signaling about having made a payment with WBTC or having used it. But there's 100,000 WBTC out there.
Well,
and people use it for DeFi. They use it for a lot of use cases that Bitcoin does not enable. And if you change your perspective and you take a step back and my cat is going crazy right now, but if you change your perspective, you're going to realize that,
shut the fuck up.
You can regard everything else as a shitcoin, or you can think that there are sidechains with their own tokens. And whatever we fail to do in terms of user experience, in terms of scaling, in terms of features, you're going to find it in at least the 20 altcoins that keep coming back every cycle. You can argue that, of course, there's a lot of speculation. They're not performing as well as Bitcoin, even though I disagree. For the past 2 years, you can see that Monero and Zcash have been performing much better than Bitcoin.
Yeah,
If you
that
zoom out
narrative
even
is
further,
strong.
you're going to see that Tron has been outperforming Bitcoin
Yeah,
ever since it added USDT in
smaller
2021.
value shitcoins will outperform Bitcoin at a certain time frame. I mean, that's been happening
And
forever.
if that certain time frame is longer than 5 years, I think you should reassess your assumptions
Which
because that's
one?
not going
Okay,
away.
but which
Tron,
shitcoin had this happen for 5 years?
Tron,
I
it's
mean,
been
think we're
outperforming Bitcoin for 5 years.
Tron with Tether on it, right? I mean,
I
Tron's
think we're
entire
talking about the
network is
future
Tether
also.
based.
I think it's a mistake to say, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is what they said about the fall of Rome or the Titanic. They said Rome has stood for 1,000 years, and you guys really think you're going to sack the city? And then they sacked the city. So I think I'd like to go back to Wicked's point about all the darknet market demand being met. And I'm sure this has changed a lot, but a long time ago, back when you can look up, it was whenever US GDP was something like 15, 17 trillion. Someone tried to measure all the dark, like the gray market transactions of the world. And a lot of these are dark or gray because of just lack of banking infrastructure. But at that time, it was the second largest economy in the world. If you added up every country's informal, it was 10 trillion. And that made it the second largest. Now, obviously, a lot has changed since then. And there's Chinese Communist Party television cameras everywhere watching us, and where everyone has mobile phones and stuff. So I don't know exactly how those have changed, but I think there actually is an enormous, if you go all around I just read a story last week about, I think it was maybe in Northern Africa or something. I'm not sure where, but in parts of India, people, because there's a cultural norm where if you make a lot of money, your family just comes to you for a handout. Basically, some people will pay their employer 25% to put their money into a secret, the money that the wage they earn into a secret account. So I think governments all around the world are all pretty incompetent. So we've got a lot of incompetent governments. We've got a lot of greedy governments. We've got a lot of corrupt governments. So the U.S. dollar is probably, this is, it's hard to say because they're all so different, but probably the U.S. dollar, he's not here anymore. Who's the guy talking? He was great. He's not here anymore though. But the U.S. dollar is probably the best run currency out of them all. He was the guy saying, we got to wait. Daniel, BRR or whatever. And so and probably the U.S. dollar, will collapse, but it might not, because the U.S. government, the U.S. society, our entrepreneurs are just so good. We got Elon Musk and stuff in America, so we have a fighting chance. But of course, the Russian ruble, the euro, the Chinese currency, what in Japan isn't a democratic death spiral. Brazil, it's they're all really bad.
I think you would agree that it's more likely those other fiats from those other countries would collapse before the USD, right?
Yeah, I would agree. Yes.
Do you think while those currencies are collapsing, those governments would try to make a new currency, adopt dollars, or just adopt a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin? Or maybe adopt a gold-backed currency or something ridiculous like that.
When these fiat currencies collapse, I think no one really knows, because I think it's very different. We could look. The people wrote books about past currency collapses, and of course, normally what happens in the modern time, after World War II, normally there would be dollarization. And people would adopt the dollar to some extent, or they do some other desperate thing, But since we're now in this digital internet world, I think it's really, really, really confusing. And I have no idea would they adopt USDT? Would they make their own? But you would think if the fiat currency is collapsing, that would come at a time when the public has decided that they don't trust the government anymore. So I would think the government's attempt to coordinate, that would probably not. I would just say that would probably not work. Yeah. If they could do that, then they would save their own system. So, and I have no idea which one.
So ultimately, it's up to the people.
And each country is very different, of course. You got to consider that countries are just, of course, very different cultures, very different everything. So
then, do the people?
Hard to say.
Do the people at that point adopt dollars, or do they adopt a cryptocurrency?
If they want
dollars.
Yeah, that's definitely that's what usually happens. So that's why I was starting to bring that up. But of course, if they wanted to adopt a cryptocurrency, I don't know how they would decide which one to adopt. I don't know if they would be comfortable.
They'd probably pick the largest one with the most network effect.
Well, they might decide, like, I don't want to put all of my faith. This is a complete and total speculation. I'm just totally making this up. Then we can go to Bitcoin Anon, who had his hand up for a long time. But this is totally made up on my part. But I can see them saying, "Hey, listen, if we go to BTC, then we'll be beholden to Strike and Square, and then whereas if we go to something like Solana, they'll go to like a large blockchain or something." I know it sounds funny, right? But I can see it kind of weirdly happening.
I don't think they'd be thinking about it that.
So I don't know, or God forbid BSV or something. This is just totally theoretical here. I realize that it's all just, but they would want something. They would say Square versus, a full node that costs $40,000 a year to run or something. And they would say, well, maybe, all right, we could go to Bitcoin Anon now, I guess.
I think the people trying to escape those collapsing fiat currencies probably wouldn't care about running nodes, and they would just be looking for whatever had them. Anyways, Bitcoin Anon was up.
Yeah, this was for Daniel, but he left the stage, but I'm sure the other people can answer it. So this was... Oh, you're back. No?
No, that's Brian.
Okay. So the whole economic node, non-economic node thing, I'm trying to understand the weight of them. Come mandatory signaling, I could imagine, say, someone like Coinbase saying, hey, we're shutting down purchasing and selling temporarily. You can't log in for a moment. This is to protect our users. At that point, they stop being an economic node because there's no transactions going through them at that point. Is that correct? Or is it just like, if you're on the network and you have a node that typically has a lot of transactions, you're still an economic node? Or does it have to be transactions at the time of mandatory signaling?
I think
if you ask me, it's the incoming. If you how much BTC you're receiving, you can solve the node for that. So it's kind of like a whole picture thing where it's like how often out of all the transacting that people are doing on L1, because the Bitcoin Core is the L1 node. So it's like you're using which people are. So if every single transaction in the block is going to you, then you're very much economic node. So I would kind of say that it diminishes it, to some extent. But if it's only going to be one day out of 365, then maybe it wouldn't.
But does it really though?
Because it'd probably be about an hour at most, in my opinion.
Well, not even that, but they're the nodes that process the spending of the Bitcoin that sits at Coinbase. So even if they turned off their node during that specific block for like an hour, they're still massively influential in what they decide to choose as the Bitcoin network in continuing going forward, even if their node goes offline for 5 blocks. Because
I think it's like that's what I tried to convey, that it's kind of like a net present value situation where the expected future usage would count, I think.
Well, it has to, right? It's not like if Coinbase turned off their node, like for 6 blocks, right around this activation, and then they turned it back on. It's not like they no longer were an economic node. They were the entire time because they're the node that process their UTXOs. Yeah.
Because you can imagine, say, okay, I start a Bitcoin Core, and then I announce to the world, I say, well, hey, I'm about to accept, I'm like a new version of BitPay or something. I'm about to accept tons and tons of Bitcoin transactions starting next week. And I prefer this. I think we should invalidate block on this or whatever. That would still count. So it's not, I would agree that the measurement of how much economic influence you have includes the imminent influence.
So Bitcoin Anon. One thing to realize is that all of these exchanges are, prepared to deal with shallow reorgs, right? So if you have like a block or two reorg, they're prepared to do this. They have protocols around this. That's why they require a certain amount of confirmations before they accept deposits. and why they also tell their customers to wait a certain amount of confirmations for the withdrawals, right? And so any disruption that may happen in those first few blocks after mandatory signaling begins, I think they're already prepared to handle. The only way where there's massive disruption, in my opinion, is if you have comparable hash rate between the two chains at the time of mandatory signaling, like if you have 45%, 55%, that type of thing, where it's much more likely that reorgs happen. And, it's possible that a deeper reorg could happen even. That's when you start getting problems. And you would have these exchanges probably shut down their deposits and withdrawals until things resolve themselves. But all that to say, if the hash rate stays the way it is, or even if it were to pick up a notch, like let's say you get the 10% hash rate signaling versus 90% not signaling, I don't think that that would necessarily affect the day-to-day operations of these exchanges. I don't even think they would shut down their deposits.
They might increase the confirmation times a little bit, but that's about it.
They might. I mean, they might, instead of 6, they're waiting for 7 or something. It's like, I don't think it would really make much of a difference. Yeah. And the reason why is because even at 10%, 90%, which, again, that would be a 10x increase in hash rate signaling. But even at that rate, it is incredibly unlikely that you even get one reorg, right? You might get 1 or 2 at the very most. And then the legacy chain is going to pull ahead and stay ahead forever. And then there's no more disruption. And that happens probably within an hour, right? And it's very clear at that point that once pulled ahead, because, you've gotten confirmation that the largest pools aren't signaling. They've already mined blocks, right? They've already expended energy.
Are there any other pools besides Foundry that are letting miners signal?
And
Ocean, obviously.
I don't know. I mean, maybe Bitcoin Anon. Is there any that you know of?
There's probably some small ones. There's got to be some small ones.
No, I'm not hooked into that. I'm not following it.
Yeah, the only ones I've heard of is Foundry and obviously Ocean. But I think even Foundry, Foundry is not even letting you signal. They're letting you vote for the entire pool to signal. And, from what I've gathered, it seems pretty unlikely that's going to happen. So, if you are a miner and you think signaling is extremely important, your only option is really to go mine with Ocean and mine a signaling template.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is economic node in your mind a technical definition or a sociological definition?
It's an economic definition. It's literally just how much demand you as an entity are pulling into Bitcoin. So it's
measured in a moment or a cumulative?
Probably
cumulative.
Probably. Well, I mean, listen. I think.
No, it's not a cumulative. It's not a cumulative. Means you're a hodler and you have old UTXOs to dump. You can only do that once.
Yeah,
it's the future demand.
It's both because if you have it's both. If you have UTXOs that you can dump, you can generate future demand, right? I can dump 100,000 Bitcoin that I own now, and then I can demand 1,000 Bitcoin a day for 100 days moving forward, right? But if you're also on top of that, a cash flow positive business that is generating 10 Bitcoin a day in profits, now you have 10 Bitcoin a day in profit indefinitely, and then accounting for the change in Bitcoin's price. But the point is, it's the accumulation or the attraction of Bitcoin which matters when you're talking about a contentious chain split, because that is the value you're grafting on either side, and the value which is attracting the hash rate, which is what defines Bitcoin at the end of the day.
It seems like a measure of potential.
It's a measure of potential. Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with that. It's a measure of potential, which is based also on. It's more so a measure of kinetic, but your kinetic energy can also be based upon how much potential energy you've built up in the past, right? If I've risen this ball up high enough because I have a bunch of potential energy, i.e. I've saved a lot of Bitcoin, now in a contentious chain split, I can, resolve that potential energy into kinetic right? But also, if I'm a very successful cash flow positive business, I have constant kinetic energy coming in because I have constant demand and ongoing demand moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good.
So, so I think, I mean, it's a mix, right? Holders have a good amount of influence because they have a one-off, transition from the potential to kinetic. But I think
because they're rich.
Ultimately, long term, what really matters.
No, not because they're rich, because they already bought Bitcoin. I mean, you could be rich. You can't sell Bitcoin if you're rich. You can only sell Bitcoin if you already bought it.
Right. And
well, I mean, they're rich. They're rich in Bitcoin terms.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like denominated Bitcoin.
But I think ultimately what really matters in a chain split or a contentious fork is whichever side has the most ongoing, sustained demand, right? I mean, like, okay, Roger Ver can split off and he can fuck with the dynamics of supply and demand for so long because he already has a bunch of Bitcoin. He can sell one side, buy the other side. He can keep that going and probably counteract all the real ongoing, perpetual demand on the other side, but it only lasts for so long. And once he runs out, what you're left with is the other side who has real adoption and real productive users, right? Who are demanding things ongoing. And that's the side that wins in the end, in my opinion.
It shouldn't be controversial, man. This is something like...
it makes sense, right? You want to have the monetary network that has the most productive users, sustained forever.
People,
right?
People that demand Bitcoin for the longest, yeah.
And miners are obviously going to follow that chain because the token, based upon all of that demand from those users, is going to be worth the most, thereby making the block rewards for those miners worth the most. It's not that complicated. It's just a matter of, gotta think about what goes into making a block reward valuable. And it's the price and it's the fees. And right now,
but it's hard for the.
And right now, the fees
it's
are
hard
nothing.
for the 110. It's hard for the 110 people to believe that, though, because they think that every node has a vote.
Well, okay, we don't have to go there, but I think it's like the fees are nothing. So ultimately, at this point in time, it's really the value of the token. So if you, as a cohort of users, want to change Bitcoin, but you're not able to sustain a value of a token if you were to split off on your own. In other words, if the network ignored you and as a result you split off, what type of value could you bring to the coin of your chain split? And would that be valuable enough? Would it be valuable enough to divert any of the hash rate, or would it be valuable enough to damage?
This software is so terrible. I can't even hear anyone now. I may be talking over someone. What is wrong with the people who made this software? I'm just going to complain. Maybe this is a sign for me to leave. I can't hear anything.
You don't hear Wicked?
Do you use,
Damn it, Elon.
Do you use Android, Paul?
Are people talking about me? I see people laughing now.
Well,
I cannot hear anything.
Paul, do you use Android?
I'm going to leave and rejoin, then probably leave again.
Leave and rejoin. Leave and rejoin, yeah.
Yeah, leaves and come back. So I can ask you why you have me blocked.
Oh, interesting question, Brian. Why would anyone block you? I wonder.
I don't know. We have each other blocked. I blocked him back. Let's be nice and unblock each other.
Bitcoin Anon. Follow-up? Any follow-up questions? Oh,
I'm back.
I think he dropped. All right, Paul, you hear me now? Probably not.
No, he doesn't hear anything.
Paul, do you hear Wicked?
Can you hear me now?
Paul. Bueller. Vlad, go call your boy on the phone.
Wait,
tell him that we can't hear him.
We can hear you.
Yes.
You can't hear us?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear, bro.
No, I don't think so.
You can't hear us?
He can't hear me, so he responds, no, I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
That's that's good. I think that made sense. He probably saw our mics were unmuted and then said, no, I don't think so. That makes sense to me.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Well, anyways, I think we had moved on from discussing, anything he was interested in anyways, because it went on to more of a
back to BIP 110.
Yeah.
But that's something he should be interested in, right? Because we're
forking too, so
we're getting 2 airdrops this season, right? This is the summer of airdrops.
I don't think
when
does
Paul
airdrop from
Coin?
We're
not.
When does Paul Coin activate?
It's 1 month from now.
No,
Yeah.
well, there's definitely going to be an airdrop. There's definitely going to be 2 airdrops. One might have value. The other one most likely won't. But there's definitely 2 airdrops.
Both may.
I think both.
Value.
How will you even sell
the Paul Coin are going to be worthless.
No,
honestly.
110. If he lowers the difficulty low enough, eventually it'll incentivize some miners.
But first, before that, what has to happen is that when 1st September to 7th September, I think something like that.
No, it's going to fork off in about probably on August 8th when mandatory signaling begins.
Okay. What about Paul's thing? What about Paul's?
By the way, Paul, what block height does your fork begin?
Yeah, when is that
Paul
fork?
Coin?
One that's near August 23rd.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so
we're getting 2 in 1 month. Fuck yeah, man! This is great.
BIP 110 will happen prior to yours, probably about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks prior.
Sure.
Maybe
we're
I missed
stuck in 2017. I think there's also a possibility that we're gonna see that scenario with SegWit 2x and Bitcoin Cash playing out once again, which means that there's gonna be 2 forks, but in the end, they both merge into one. And I think that there's a non-zero possibility that the NOTS people are gonna realize that they don't have a market, they don't have any future plan outside of just getting away from Core.
Yeah.
So they would just merge into eCash.
No, I don't think
eCash Juniors.
That's crazy.
They should, man. They should, instead of starting their own, dead chain, they should just go work with the B cashers.
Hilarious.
Maybe, maybe if the B cashers.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Luke is a developer for eCash. He's helping Paul. He helped Paul do eCash.
I said B. He said B cash, not eCash.
No. Luke, Paul hired Luke to help him on drive chains. Like he already hired him.
After he lost all his coins. Yeah, it's true. I did.
So at this point, Luke, it will be very hireable after this fails. So
maybe he might be back on the market. I didn't think of that. No, I think we all know that.
Oh shit. Bro.
Okay, first of all, when I was leaving,
the lead eCash developer.
Who is this? Brian wants to be unblocked. Who wants to be unblocked?
Brian wants.
I don't know. Normally,
I don't know why. I don't know, man. I blocked you because you blocked me. I don't know. Let me unblock each other.
Normally I will only block someone if they either for a good reason, or if they usually when I block people it's because they blocked me, and I just think fine. You blocked me, then I'll just block you back, and I just think it's not funny.
So there we go. I unblocked you. You unblocked me. If we decide to change minds, then we can.
We can
come on here and hash it out again. There we go.
Luke's going to be a free agent, man.
Look at that. We made some progress here. You see, we're merging chains.
Okay. Now I definitely agree with Wicked. The mandatory signaling, no one's going to signal because not signaling is first of all the easiest thing to do. And second of all, no one really actually cares. Yeah, exactly. And why would they go out on a limb? So it will be August 8th, and then it will be August 9th that they decide to presumably they will just, they'll have to put out something that has either proof of work change or lower difficulty.
Or an extension to activation.
The question is, will they do it immediately, or will they say this is going to happen in 6 months?
I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the whole point of this is to hijack the network. I don't think the point of this is to create another altcoin. I think they want. That's why the threshold was set at 55%. They're trying to coerce the pools in America to get that threshold, and then they want to hijack the network. They don't want to split off. That's never the plan.
It's an interesting theory, but I don't think so. I think it's normal to set the threshold near 51. Really, because otherwise you create toxic limbo. I mean, I could elaborate on that if you think, but I think if you look at how emotional they are, they seem very emotional, don't they? Like we've heard lots of
Paul, this is not the way to build cohesion. You need to be nicer to your future supporters.
Yeah, that's your future market there, bro.
Your future lead developers.
I know. Well, no, I just think about how much better off they were. It's funny because we are very similar in that we both think that Core is corrupt, so we should be. I know exactly.
There was Udi on the call. He hated Bitcoin Core. You had the BIP 110ers there. They hated Bitcoin Core.
Not that good.
You also had Hunter Beast. He doesn't like Bitcoin Core because they completely ignored him and his fix for Quantum.
Yeah,
so like you had a bunch of.
So it sounds like there's like this.
Because
but this is why I love Bitcoin Core.
This growing
I
cohesion between all of the minority forks that we all hate Bitcoin Core. So you should all band together and become like a fucking tribe.
Powers combined. Become Captain
That's
Planet.
exactly what Paul's saying.
NATO.
When
yeah, but you know, they would be better off with me, I think. I mean, it just kind of blow my mind when you think of like all the people to lead a movement, and then it's Luke Dashjr. with his crazy posts about eating pets, and Galileo was wrong to say the sun goes. And it's like, and masturbation is a terrible sin, arguably worse than murder. And you're just like, is this for real? Like, is this like a fake controversy that we like every now and then people just put out like as a test? They see, will the Bitcoin community?
No, man, he believes everything. He believes everything he spouts.
I know.
Hear me out.
No, I know it too well.
When BIP 110 fails, what we do is we tell Luke to try building BIP 110 as a cusp, and then we have all the BIP 110 drama, but now on eCash.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Do we need? How much drama are we even going to need at that point?
It's probably there isn't going to be the spam drama. There's going to be no transactions, so there's going to be no spam.
If Ocean didn't exist, I would be with you, Paul, in thinking that he would change the proof of work algorithm, because that's something that he's wanted to do for a while. But because Ocean exists and because that's his salary, I just have such a hard time seeing him trying to fucking fire the own mind.
You know, I gotta tell you, I don't say this often, but you know, Mr. Hodl, I think that's a really good point. I hadn't considered that. I think you could be onto something.
I just don't think it's possible for him to do that. If this was 2018, yeah.
He's already
future-proofing
himself against that. Why do you think they switched to running two? I mean, they're running two pools now, side by side. They're running a fucking core pool and a knots pool, and when the knots pool switches off,
sorry,
they change the proof of works, and like he's just hedging his bets.
Technically, both are knots pools. One's just BIP 110 enforcing.
Okay, you know what I mean. One that's in compliance or consensus, whatever, with the current main chain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but one thing to bring up is that I saw one tweet somewhere that gave me that some person had an idea. I don't remember exactly who it was or what was said, but it was something like this: bringing this issue to bringing it out and bringing it to like a dramatic event with like a deadline and like a clear objective is like the way of forcing Luke out of Ocean. So that's what I heard, something like that, and that made me. I'm not saying I believe that, but I'm thinking, that was an interesting idea that there's some kind of corporate drama and they want to get rid of Luke because he's kind of not worth it.
There is corporate drama. I mean, I've confirmed that with some of the board members in Ocean who, you know, like say that things are unclear in terms of what they're going to support. But whether that results in a resignation of Luke or a firing of Luke, I don't know. I mean, I think there will probably be a pivot in the way that they are marketing Ocean. Like, I don't think they're going to want to continue being the spam fighting pool moving forward if this fork fails, because, you know, that's kind of a losing narrative. So I think there will be a pivot, and then whether or not Luke keeps working there or not is, you know, yet to be seen, and Mechanic for that matter too, since he's been driving a lot of the marketing around Ocean.
Maybe that's why they're deciding to split into two pools, because they know that if they keep the core chain pool around, Luke will just inevitably rage quit because he's supporting and working on Pedo coin or CSAM coin or whatever.
But I don't necessarily know if, I mean, like, I don't think Luke is Luke even doing very much for Ocean anymore. I think Jason's pretty much taken the reins in terms of the technical like updates around the pool software. And so, I mean, I don't know if Luke's doing much at this point, to be honest.
This guy's working full with BIP 110.
I think Jason's doing most of the work now. So, like, if Luke were to resign, it's not a huge deal, in my opinion. And most of their hash rate's not signaling, so it's not like they're a pool that is putting Luke up on a pedestal. Is they're a pool that is largely, being supported by hashers or miners who don't really give a shit about Bitcoin 10. And then, as a matter of fact, if they were to drop that entire narrative, and if Luke were to resign, it might even drive further support from other miners who maybe have been staying away because of Luke's craziness.
I was trying to think, why was Mr. Hodl having such a great point? And I was remembering that Luke, I've seen Luke use this phrase so many times about changing the proof of work. That was kind of like why it was in my head. So that's another thing. He seems like he says that exact phrase very often. He says, well, he may have said it more than anyone else in the whole Bitcoin
Did that phrase start during the whole SegWit thing? And
no, this is the craziest part. This is the craziest part about it. During the whole SegWit thing,
saying it's like 2015.
No, it wasn't. No, it would make sense in 2015. No, he started doing it after SegWit. So he already knew about ASIC Boost by that time. By that time, covert ASIC Boost was already a thing. He was still all about getting SegWit through. Like he was, championing it through UASF. It was after SegWit got activated. After SegWit got activated in 2018, Cobra came out with some kind of thing about a new hashing algorithm called Proof of Work X. And Luke retweeted that, and then it was like, we should adopt this because SHA-256 is broken because of ASIC Boost. But by that time, everyone was already using ASIC Boost. It wasn't just a Bitmain thing at that point. So I'm like, it didn't make any fucking sense to me. Why were you fighting for SegWit for so long when you thought that ASIC Boost was already broke SHA-256? So after SegWit was activated, after everything, we already had other miners starting, Bitmain started selling miners again to everybody. Everything started going back to normal. At that point, he was pitching about a proof of work change in 2018, a year after SegWit. So he's fucking insane. He's just crazy. Someone told me though, I learned that he had money invested in something with Proof of Work X. I'm not sure. I don't know the details about it. I don't even know anything about Proof of Work X, how it
I know
works.
what you're talking about.
But apparently he was invested in it somehow, and that's why he wanted to do it. But I don't know. I don't know the details about that.
It's like a research lab that has a patent on it or something like that. I know what you're talking about.
Really? All right, good. Because I don't know.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. No, it's true. He has. It's like some research lab that has a patent on I think they call it Proof of Work X or some shit like that. I'll see if I can find it.
But yeah, that was the hashing algorithm that Bitcoin Cobra, the guy that runs Bitcoin.org, and Luke Dashjr. Jr. were both shilling like crazy in 2018. It was big time.
To correct you, but when I went back to review all the 2017 content around the UASF, Jimmy and I did discuss Luke wanting to do a proof of work change while
no, that was the case. No, that was the case if BIP 148 became the minority chain, and because at that point Chinese miners said they set away $100 million to reorg the minority chain, and then Luke was basically like, well, if you do that, then we do a proof of work change. And at that point, that was the nuclear option, right? If the miners start wrecking your chain, you don't have a choice. You don't have a. You have to. So yeah, at that point, it made sense.
Yeah, but it's the same playbook he's deploying now, Mr. Hodl. He's literally saying that if they do end up on a minority chain, he's going to consider
but if that's
the SHA-256 miners on the main chain as hostile actors, and needs to fire the miners.
The main difference here is that you may end up on a minority chain, but it's not like the majority is fucking with you in the same way that they literally said they might.
No one's trying to wipe it out. Yeah, no one's talking about wiping out the chain.
Yeah. So it's not even hostile in this case. In this case, it's literally just ignoring. Like the majority
Chinese miners did not want a minority chain to exist. I remember they had a whole article on that shit. They put like $100 million aside and all this shit. So then, at that point,
then they were planning to wipe you out. And then in today's world, they're not even paying attention to you. And so it's a difference, right? The fact that Luke is going to the nuclear option, regardless, I guess, is telling, right? It's basically him admitting that he knows he's going to lose. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if he actually pulls the trigger this time or not.
Luke is always very black and white. So he's always like, that's when he says he liar or whatever. And so to him, the nuclear option is just like any other. He doesn't live in this world that the rest of us live in, where there's like a proportional response, like someone steps on your toe and you turn around and glare at them angrily or something. Luke just thinks like there's right and there's wrong, and it's very bizarre, but he's just like, but
like Rosa Parks shouldn't have broken the law and should have stayed on the back of the bus.
Well, yeah,
he's wrong for her to break the law.
Did he say that?
He did.
I don't even think that makes like the top. You can look at his. Not that I'm advising anyone to do this, but you can go on Reddit and you can find him, and you can just read all of his posts. And yeah, he's a very interesting guy, and that's why I think it's very funny that. And what's also weird is that the 110 issue it's like a terrible issue to pick. Also, out of like you could at least like OpCat would do something, like at least it would. It's something that the Stark people wanted. This is this frivolous op return thing doesn't do anything. So it's like.
Well, Paul. So I mean, one of the interesting things, you probably haven't been listening to any of the spaces I've been running where we've been trying to piece out, like what it is that BIP 110 actually achieves, right? And I think many of its supporters, as well as Luke and Dathan and Mechanic, have admitted now that it does nothing to actually stop or slow down spam. I think, it's pretty clear that all of the spam, what was that? It's to send a message, right. So all the spam.
I said that it sends a message.
Right. It's trying to send a message. All the spam that it's trying to stop has already, bypassed any sort of change and is ready to deploy that if need be. So it doesn't actually stop any spam. It doesn't stop contiguous bytes because they've figured out ways around that as well. And now the narrative shift is, well, it's hardening Bitcoin in other ways, and in one way it's making it less susceptible to poison block attacks. That's like one narrative that they're trying to push now. Hunter Beast is pushing it, and a few others. I don't know. So I think that doesn't have much teeth. I don't even know where I'm going with this, to be honest.
I mean, it's better to send a message with something that is not an embarrassing self-contradiction that will probably, especially not if you have to publicly vote and you're getting 0.5%, and then there's no plan for the inevitable, because, they're not going to get enough hash rate to find blocks. I think everyone here probably agrees.
I think they'll find a few.
Yeah, but they have to find 100 for those people to get paid.
Okay, maybe a couple blocks a day.
Not only that.
Well, they get 100. Will they get 101? Will they get 101 blocks?
Not only that. So yes, they have to find 100 before their miners get paid. But then by the time they find 100, if that ever happens, are those block rewards worth anything? That's the secondary question, right? And I think the answer is pretty obviously no, because as soon as
not if it's sold as BTC.
As soon as any real market value forms around those coins, I'll be the first in line to dump mine.
Well, they have to find a new name and everything too. I can tell you all from, not that you need any information on this particular topic, but if you're from firsthand experience, there's like actually kind of a large number of details you have to like work through, even to just to create fork of Bitcoin that's not even changing lines of code from Bitcoin Core. You need like the name, what's the domain, how do people find the GitHub project? Like, how do they know where the node software is, or how do they tell it from imposters?
Yeah, I gotta say,
I have a question in terms of that, real quick, Tone. Paul.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you in talks with exchanges already to like list your shitcoin?
No, I was just doing it because I wanted to make sure it was in a nice box first. So I was doing these things the dry run, which is like if the fork happened like today. So we were like doing that like basically now. So then I was going to. I thought so. I haven't quite done it yet,
Wait,
but I think the question of the exchange.
You're a month out though.
Yeah, I think the exchange thing is not as relevant as it was in the recent past because. In the past, it was like a total kingmaker if you were on the exchange versus not. But nowadays, there is so much like with this swap provider. Like you can download an app to your phone. Most wallets,
that's
like just a regular crypto wallet, will swap.
I guess.
And
the
other thing is
the key there is that you're getting enough blocks that atomic swaps actually make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's actually so you're right that you know how it is when you do a project. Things take longer than you thought. So even though I planned for like lots and lots of buffer space, it's like a little bit running out. So yeah, I was a little on the exchange thing. It is later than I would have thought. But there are some other things like the L1, which is all you need to send and receive the coin. Like they don't have to mess with the drive chains or the L2s or even the BIP 301 reinforcer. So the L1 is basically a copy of Bitcoin Core, So like basically everything is almost the same. So I really wanted to put it in a nice box where I have like a
are you
description
using a
of like
port for your node. I'm assuming it's not 8333.
Yes.
What are you using?
You can check. I have to double check, but yeah, we changed like network magic and stuff like that. The ports, the seed node. You got to change those things.
Yeah.
I think we might be using 18333, but I don't want to say the wrong detail or something. Like we added 10,000 to it or something.
Talking about the CUSF thing.
Not quite, but it's similar. I'm just saying that for the exchange to add it, it's not like they have to like do some weird vetting thing or figure out like it's the same as the oldest BTC. So I'm not as worried. And then another reason why I'm not that worried is actually, it may sound bizarre, but the rise of Tether has kind of turned everything into an exchange. Like every single Telegram group chat is like an OTC desk now, and so I'm not as worried. So I deprioritized it slightly. And then, of course, with regular project management stuff, it's slightly later than I thought. But yeah, this is like the last 30 days or so. But I also think it would be pretty easy. And, you want to moment. There will be a few people a few smaller ones definitely will, and a few smaller wallets definitely will. So that's already locked up. And so I was kind of waiting to ramp it up before I tried to call in those favors at Kraken or whatever. You know what I mean? I kind of wanted to it's like inviting people to a party. You got to get you got to get your stuff ready first. You got to get your food, your drinks. You got to get your music or whatever. Then you got to get like your close friends who you think will come. Then you invite some other people, and then finally down the line you invite the marginal people. And you think, oh, it's a really good party. We got a lot of people coming. We got plenty of food. So I was going to guess the big exchanges like last. That's my thought process on it.
What is the equivalent of inviting the girls to your party?
Yeah, the girls would be like the hot girl you like, you would delay that, right? Because you want to put the party together first, maybe get some FOMO going, make sure you got a lot of people coming.
Make sure it's like social capital, like it's like everybody's going to be there, yeah.
Paul, do you throw parties often?
I would say that I do, yes.
He's a popular guy, man. He's got a lot of friends.
Yeah, that's true. Parties are a key ingredient. Parties are,
I'll make it to one of your parties.
I've thrown a few parties where people had met at the party and later got married and had kids, believe it or not. So there's hope for everyone.
I'm already married, so.
Okay.
We got to go to the fall parties.
Yep. Now, did we interrupt? Someone was saying something else. I forgot. I already forgot.
Oh, yeah, no, that was me. I was saying I'm kind of disappointed that not a single exchange has actually stepped up and said, hey, we are ready the moment, Luke flips, the proof of work change or something, they'll be ready with a coin. They may or may not have a name for it, but I'm surprised no exchange has even taken it seriously to kind of get ready to sell the shitcoin. I
agree. Well, this funny. The name, not to interrupt, but I'm on the same wavelength as you. where I think it's fun. I'm like obsessed. I'm like worried about all these tiny little details. And meanwhile, it seems like Luke is over there just like whatever. I'm sure Wicked and I are also like on the same page where it's like I don't think they realize that they are forking off like August 8th. They kind of, a lot of them think, maybe Luke realizes this, but like that it's August 8th, but a lot of them seem to think like that it's not. It's hard to wrap your head around what's going on with them, but I don't think they realize that it's the first mandatory signaling period. That
it's because you guys aren't thinking straight up. Honestly, it's because you guys aren't thinking with Luke logic. Like if you use Luke logic, it makes perfect sense why he's not concerned about this stuff. In Luke logic world, we are the ones that forked off. Like Core is the one that's forking off. So he's like, oh yeah, it's just Bitcoin. Like it's not BIP10 coin or holy Bitcoin or whatever. It's just Bitcoin. Like we're the fork.
But by the way, back when Bitcoin Cash, Bcash broke off, it wasn't clear what the ticker was going to be because they also didn't prepare. I don't know if anyone remembers, but some of the exchanges had the ticker BCC instead of BCH for Bcash, and those were the exchanges. With BCC would make sense, Bitcoin Cash, but BCC was the ticker for BitConnect, and the exchanges that had BitConnect on the exchange couldn't list BCC, so they ended up listing BCH, and that's how it ended up being BCH to begin with. But there was no consensus from their side what their ticker was going to be. The exchanges decided that.
I thought at the beginning when all that shit happened in 2017 that the original plan was to call the legacy chain Bitcoin Classic or something like that, and then call the new chain something else.
No, it was Bitcoin. Not Bitcoin Classic. It was Bitcoin Core. Bitcoin Classic was a whole other thing. It was going to be Bitcoin and Bitcoin Core, because again, just like Luke, Vair thought that we were the one breaking the rules and for forking off somehow.
This is certainly a great time to revisit old block size war stories. And I remember when this happened, I went to some Bitcoin meetup in I think in Miami, and people were gathered, or maybe it was I don't remember where. It doesn't matter. The point is, people were like they were really talking like a lot about like, oh, we got this exchange to guarantee that they would use the BTC ticker for this chain. I don't even remember who it was. But I just remember it kind of makes it maybe a confusing story to tell, so I'm sorry about that. But the interesting thing about the story is that the people were so excited. I was like kind of walking up to these people. It was at a party of some kind of Bitcoin event, and and they were like huddled together, and they were so excited that they got this exchange to get the ticker for one of the chains, not the other. So it was like people were really obsessed. Like this naming stuff is very important to some people. It's not, I don't know how important it is overall, but these people do fight over, they had like a bitter fight over these, of course you remember the Bcash versus Bitcoin Cash, and so it's interesting.
Roger tried to rename both. Roger tried to make it Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash. There's no more Bitcoin. Like it's just Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash.
So we can predict that all this will happen again. Well, this I preemptively was like, for mine, I got to pick something that doesn't have Bitcoin in the name, because I think there was a huge strategic mistake by Roger because I think I saw Roger give a long talk about Bitcoin Cash somewhere once, and I was just kind of in the audience blending in, and the person, I could overhear people, like when we were walking away, like people next to me were saying, like it was clear from the way they were talking that these people who are normal people, they kind of thought that Roger Ver had been talking, they like Googled Bitcoin or something. They didn't know that he was talking about not BTC, if that makes any sense. Like they thought he was just shilling Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Cash is just some way of talking about BTC. So I was like, oh man,
the fork
I was like,
the
poor
problem.
Roger.
The fork was whatever. I never had the problem with the fork. I had the problem with him trying to make it seem like that was Bitcoin. Like that was the issue. Like a chain that was magnitudes less secure, he tried to make people believe that was Bitcoin. It was crazy.
Wait, speaking of which, Paul, have you decided what difficulty you're going to go down to yet?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I think it's not. We were going to test.
Paul, you're fucking month away from launch day.
Well, it doesn't really. It's like
we're shooting it at the hip. We're doing it.
Think about it like
You're
this.
gonna wait for people to mine for fucking 11 years straight to hit a block, dude.
Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to hopefully not do that because
difficulty
but here's
of
the
millions
thing.
Probably like
you want it low. So
sure.
The interesting thing is, it basically depends on what you think the price will be, because the hash rate is more or less the block reward multiplied by the price.
Yeah.
So if you think it's going to be
extremely profitable for a short period of time.
Well, as you know, that's in broad strokes what the plan is, but I don't know exactly how low to set it. But so I think probably
low. It's gotta be low enough.
Yeah.
It's gotta be high enough where it's not GPU mineable, but low enough where it's
probably
BitX mineable.
Probably a million or billion.
I got a question for you, Hodl. If he's doing a proof of work change, wouldn't he want it to be?
This switched to me.
No. We're not talking about. We're talking about.
And we don't know what Luke's going to do, but I wish we did.
We're talking about.
No, it's SHA-256D all the way. I love SHA-256D. Just keep it. Love it. That has its own security budget. This is our favorite phrase. Implications later on down the road, because if one chain has SHA-256, this is just a quick aside, but if one chain has 256, and if one chain has transaction fees that are low and stable, and the other one is growing geometrically, even 5% or 5% a year, eventually it will grow so much within a 2-week period that it will be bigger than the entire profit margin of the other chain, and it'll have may cause problems in the long run.
Paul, it's got to be BitX mineable.
Yeah, I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Well, we have some people who have a vague.
Why not GPU mineable? You can have more people participate.
No, because then the reorg. You can't have GPU mineable SHA-256 anymore. There's risks of too many reorgs.
Well, also you don't want it to be so low that somebody could come in with a petahash and mine
then a bunch of orphans start happening too.
blocks in 10 minutes or something.
I feel like informally people have. If I add up all the people who offered to mine, it's in the petahash
Paul,
zone
why didn't you take Satoshi's rewards and then just make the block reward reset to 50 Bitcoin? Instead of
it won't be, because the only thing that matters is the revenue minus the cost. So if you set the difficulty low, it's the same as improving the block reward temporarily.
Merge though, right?
Is it though?
After difficulty adjustment period, we'll get to where it needs to be.
It will always reach the zero profit condition, what are called in economics the zero profit condition equilibrium. So it'll always be zero eventually.
But the difference, Paul, between that is that you basically have a mandatory lockup of those coins if you were to redistribute them to miners instead of early investors. So that'd be the clear difference.
Yeah, but isn't it kind of it's all for naught, right? That doesn't even really achieve anything.
No, I guess you're probably
right, because it's just going to be super low. Thousands of blocks will be found the first few days. Then it will. The only question is, will it overshoot? Because it goes up by a factor of 4. So that's the only.
Who cares? You just do an emergency difficulty adjustment and change it.
Well, Paul, that kind of begs the question then, what is the fork even trying to achieve besides firing core?
We're gonna fire core, baby. That's the purpose. We're gonna fire core.
Firing core is a good purpose. Yeah, sure, that's fine. But I'm talking about what else.
Mine doesn't necessarily even fire core, because the L1's the same as core. It's exactly the same. But yeah, we add all these L2s.
How do you split up then?
Planetary scale and the low difficulty, that is the hard fork event. So
so it's not going to be the same L1 then. It's going to be a different chain.
Of course.
You're going to use the same code base. Yeah, sure, but you're going to be in a different.
9.9% of the code is.
The code base. Yeah, I get that. He's going to have the same code base.
Brian, the point of this is to get drive chain in without Bitcoin.
Yeah, the merge mined L2s, planetary scales, eCash privacy, namespace, prediction markets, etc. But in particular, the ability to launch new L2. If all the L2s suck, the current L2s suck, someone can launch a new L2. And
wait, there's only how many L2? You could only launch a certain amount of L2s on drive chain, right? You're not.
Well, not really. It's in the BIP. It's 256.
Ability to pack more in.
Wait, Paul,
but you could just keep doing it.
It's 256, and it has to be.
But it's not a practical limit.
It each new one is basically dependent on miner buy-in, right?
Yeah, to survive, they basically are. But the logic is it's merge mine.
It'll be pretty interesting. I mean, because it's one thing to propose that in a network like Bitcoin proper that has a sufficiently decentralized mining, globally. But when you have such a low difficulty, and let's say you've got like 10 chuds running beta axes, now it's a way different dynamic, right? Because it's like you're proposing a new sidechain, and now you need 5 out of the 10 chuds with bit axes to enable it.
Got it. Bit axes are going to hold it down. Watch.
Well, I think that actually the fact that the pools are sort of expert specialists, I think that's actually a pretty good thing. Well, that's what I mean, is that we have the same thing in BTC, is that we have a few pools. So I was thinking, actually, that's not the worst thing for the pools to actually say, right. Maybe all these customers at Foundry.
Because the BitX runner is just as competent as the pool operator.
Well, I was be hoping, well, here's the thing, is the prediction didn't come true in BTC. So I would be hoping that the Foundry, people like in Foundry would be like, okay, listen, we've put like a team of 3 people full time to study all these Bitcoin controversies. So here's our report on 110. And here's our leadership, right? But instead they just punt it back and they say vote so that we're not responsible, which I think is really disappointing. I think it's worse. I thought what you were saying was that the BitX people would be easier to coordinate, so that would be better. So that's why I was saying, well, actually, it's still easy to coordinate BTC. Maybe you were saying something else.
I'm
saying like I got a BitX and I want to mine, right? So like I'm not right now. I'm just have it on and like
what if the hash rate is so low that someone can just spin up like a petahash and then just start rejecting all of the sidechain proposals?
Yes.
No one's gonna care. Wicked. No one's gonna care, dude. No one's gonna care to do that. Like I don't think anyone's gonna care. There's gonna be no money to for what? How much? Like, what do you think? How much money do you think is gonna be out there for the takings? Like in the beginning, especially.
I don't know, but they're currently like in private transactions, like they're currently like in the you can also look at something like that, yeah. But that's like the pre-launch, so you don't know if that's
0.05% the value.
What is that? Let me see. Possibly, yeah, that could be right.
Oh man, we got a co-founder of Star9 here. I just noticed.
It's literally less than. I mean, you would pay more in fees to probably swap than you'd get out.
Swap what?
Well, I don't know. I guess what am I trying to say here?
The reason to do this project is, first of all, it's kind of like a better version of like Bitcoin Inquisition. So it's like a cool, just like demo, but like much cooler. And because even at exactly. But I think the issue is that in my philosophy of BTC, even though BTC has done very, very well, and I've been a part of Bitcoin for like 15 years, it's done very well. I'm worried that it has
all of those parties didn't fund themselves.
Yes, right, and exactly. It does make you more. Being rich does help you on the popularity front. In case you were wondering. That's to see some secret knowledge. I'm just letting you guys in on the classified information.
You're rich and popular.
Yeah. Some people have it all.
He's only popular because he's rich.
You never know. But I think the issue is that BTC might not have a future. So I'm more concerned about BTC having no future than I am convinced that ECX will be a big success.
I'm not going to sell my eCash. I'm going to hold it as a hedge.
Yeah, I think you probably should. I think it's not the worst decision, especially if here's the thing: if the price is really low, then why even bother selling? So I think a lot of people won't sell.
I'm going to give you that list of Satoshi coins, and I want at least 10 of them. I want at least 10 of those. 10 of those rewards.
10 block rewards.
That's one of the things, though. The only reason people went and sold Bcash is because it actually, it was worth doing. Same thing with Bitcoin.
I think, you and I, we made a lot of money. I made, I think I didn't sell I waited a while, but I sold a lot of it after like 6 months or something. and then definitely in 2019.
I sold 50% of my stack on Black, and then the other 50% trickled. Like I guess.
Yeah.
What's the opposite of DCA? Whatever the opposite of DCA is.
Dollar cost averaging in reverse.
Dumping.
Dollar cost.
Dumping, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nuking.
Whatever that is, that's what I did with the other 50%.
Dumping coin averaging. No, that's not that good. But we'll think of it. Anyway, yeah, so it depends. So either the project will be small and it'll be a demo, or it'll be big and then it'll have some kind of relevance. I think a lot of people don't realize, how different things could be. So Mr. Hodl and I were talking before about Bitcoin Core. Like, even if you just download our thing Bitwindow, which you can use with the BTC network, so you don't have to, if you just keep it with BTC only, this is a front end for Bitcoin Core, and it's much better, it's much better than certainly Bitcoin Core's front end. And
what, like a GUI?
Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah, dude, anything is better than fucking Bitcoin Q2. That thing's a piece of shit.
Wait,
yeah.
Paul, when they rip out, do you think you appreciate Bitcoin Core more when they rip out the kernel? Like when it just becomes a node,
Well, I don't think one issue. I don't think this was intentional, but it's just a fact of the way C++ and Qt work together. Which is, I actually really like the way Qt works, and we had an original version, but that's an aside. It's a story for another day. It's just like you can't easily separate the C++ source code from the graphical source code, so it's just kind of this bizarre. I think it's a historical accident. Now, the question of whether or not people have had this dream of separating out the consensus from the wallet, from the I'm not sure that this has actually worked really well, because if you think about it, in order to be a wallet, you need to measure confirmations, and in order to do that, you need to either validate or you need to dial out to someone who is validating, in the case of SPV or similar. So this plan to modularize everything, I think, has mostly failed. People have tried it a lot, and it sort of doesn't work. And then when you want to give the experience to the end user, you have to re-centralize everything back at the end. And I think one thing, the success of the BDK wallet is mostly because just Bitcoin Core sucks overall. Now we got Keegs wants to say something, but I just think Bitcoin Core sucks in general.
I do want to push back on this idea that it doesn't work. I do agree that there's a lot of actual obstacles in order to separately modularize everything, because you are correct that wallets do need to be able to do kind of just-in-time block validation and fetching in order to be able to actually perform their functions as a wallet. But there is a very real concern about trying to, it's really about consensus divergence, right? If you let different implementations implement consensus in different ways, I say it like you can prevent it, but if you sort of bless this idea of a bunch of different implementations re-implementing consensus, you can get chain splits a little bit more aggressively, and that's unfortunately the only thing that stops from double spending, right? So great care has to go into it. And so I think the reason that you're seeing that it's failed is that there's a lot of sort of inertia. Core doesn't have an incentive to make it easier, because why would they? They're I don't want to talk ill of Core necessarily. I have a fairly neutral view of the people who contributed to it. I think overall it's a noble effort, but they're not perfect. But either way, just for, even if you didn't assume any malice at all, it's what incentive do they have to make it easier for people to use software that's not Core, right? It's why are they going to commit their own efforts to making
there was a PR to merge the enforcement rules into Core, and it was declined, right?
Which enforcement rules?
Are we talking about Bitcoin 10? Sorry.
No.
Oh no, we're just talking about building any
Bitcoin kernel. My mind just completely just went back to Bitcoin. I'm so sorry.
No, we're talking about LibBitcoin kernel, which is this attempt to extract the consensus engine outside of Bitcoin Core and
got
make
it.
Got it.
But isn't that a court dev who's doing that work?
Here's the thing.
I'm saying that it's not being done at all. I'm just saying that getting a whole huge effort around it, and it's first of all technically difficult, and it also doesn't necessarily help things immediately. I think a lot of people sort of recognize it's useful in theory, including the devs who contribute to Core itself. It's just that there are not a lot of people who really want to like make that their claim to fame, right?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that's really useful about it is you just, at least in theory, you know which code you can touch and which code you can't. And, it's like, if you touch this code, you might cause.
Yeah, I almost think this is worse, though, because, it's like it's perpetuating this idea that soft forks are some kind of dark sorcery, that third rail that we shouldn't touch. And then if you can edit the front end and just tell people that they're getting Bitcoin when they're not. So the front end is also like kind of like mission critical in a way, because it's a way of stealing coins from people. I just want to highlight
really load bearing in practice. Like, how many people whose actual experience of Bitcoin is actually mediated by the Bitcoin Core wallet front end, as opposed to Bitcoin Core being embedded in other like backends for various wallets that they.
Yeah, no one uses.
There's even been an argument made that we should just fucking remove the GUI front end altogether.
I mean, I would be in favor of that because
nobody uses it, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's how Bitwindow works. Is it under the hood? It downloads like Bitcoin D and Bitcoin CLI basically, and then the front end is its own thing. So that's our project. One of the projects that we're doing. But I just want to call people's attention to the fact that even if you go back to Scaling 3, which was in 2016, 10 years ago, people were talking about, LibBitcoin consensus and so people have been talking about this for a really long time. And then rebase hell is hard enough. Like, you get stuck in rebase hell. And so I kind of like don't really see this happening. Like, so much stuff, it's so difficult to do anything in Bitcoin Core anyway. And so this project seems like it's moving at a glacial pace. Same as everything else, Stratum V2, whatever. It's just like things are just going very, very slow.
But you like Stratum V2, right?
Is that because the complexity of the system is getting like?
I think it's a cultural thing. I think it's part of the bureaucratization.
It's
what do you think of the more recent updates made to Core, mostly around policy, but which has like facilitated better Lightning and Arc, like, for example, package relay and cluster mempool and these other types of things? Have you been keeping up with that, Paul?
I have not. I mean, I do read I read about what's new, but I haven't put as much attention into it because at this point, the strategy in my head is to let Core be Core and then copy that for the L1. And I'm a big believer in like specialization of labor. So even though clearly some people are really, really smart, and you're like Yvonne Neumann and you got your Richard Feynman or whatever, you get some people are much smarter than other people, but really just about everyone in the world, it's really hard for anyone else to do their job, even if you're a janitor or you're a fast food worker. Everyone has a lot of specialized. So I'm willing to give Core a lot of the benefit of the doubt on many things. But there are other things where I don't. And as you know, I criticize them and I say they suck. And I think the fact that everyone here unanimously agreed that the front end is terrible to the point where we're almost indifferent to deleting it.
I don't think the front end is terrible. I think that it's a hot wallet. I think the wallet. So the reason it was terrible for hardware wallets, right? It was kind of difficult to connect a hardware wallet to your Bitcoin Core wallet, and then Sparrow came out. Sparrow came out, made that much easier. But today, Bitcoin Core wallet does exactly what Sparrow wallet does. So
Sparrow is clearly better. Things like Electrum and Sparrow and
partially signed with PSBTs.
There's also
with PSBTs,
because like what ends up happening is that when Core needs to test that they are like that the Core consensus stuff actually works, they need a code base to use to test that against. And like it's not just that they need to have like the like the CLI wallet, because they might also need to be able to test out PSBT stuff, and PSBT is part of like the BIP specs and whatnot, and that's important that that's all interoperable as well.
PSBT made Bitcoin Core like basic. It doesn't have the flow of Sparrow. Like, you don't see the UTXO, like the UTXOs, the way that little chart that he made. It's not. That's why it sucks. But it does the same thing. It does exactly the same thing. It wasn't the case 5 years ago, but today, Bitcoin Core's wallet, you could use exactly the same way as Sparrow and Electrum, especially with signing transactions like, keys that are cold. Other than that, I don't recommend anyone really using a hot wallet on their computer. Like, I don't think it's smart. Like, I don't think you should keep money on your computer. Your key should be cold. And Bitcoin Core wasn't really good at transacting with people's hardware wallets. So Sparrow came in, filled that void, but now it does basically what Sparrow does, and pretty much the same thing.
A lot of OGs don't believe that, Mr. Hodl. Right.
Well, that's not my problem. They should try it out again. They should go and see how it works, because I'm telling you, there's really not much of a difference between sending a transaction with your cold card using Sparrow or Bitcoin Core. But that's only because of partially signed Bitcoin transactions. That's why it's so similar now. Before PSBTs, it was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I mean. It's like if you didn't have the Bitcoin Core wallet at all available to you, like officially maintained infrastructure by the project, maybe it doesn't need to be in the same code base. I'll grant you that. But it's like if the Bitcoin Core as a loose organization, it's like, it's also kind of maybe a little bit not the best thing to think of it as a single organization, but like to the extent that we can, if it's not one organization that maintains both of those code bases, then like you have testing conditions or satisfiability conditions of the code that you ship that are not depending on, or like that are not accessible to you in your own infrastructure. And so it's useful for them to maintain it, but I don't know that it's necessarily like a product that they really have the staff to support as a product. And it shows, right? Like it's just not a popular choice.
I think the reasons for rejecting BIP39 were very, very weak, and most normal people are very intimidated by a long string of like weird alphanumeric characters. And the 12-word thing was actually like the first good like cultural invention that anyone had. It was rapidly adopted by every other cryptocurrency.
What were the reasonings for rejecting it?
Well, I think it was like something like there's no version number or something, and you couldn't. What I would think.
That's the only reason I can think of is that it's not that extensible.
And it's kind of like, who cares? Because it's just transforming an integer into 12 words or 24 words. And I thought that was really. This is like yet another example where all these normal people who are like our customers, these are like the people we want to adopt. We really want them to be sovereign users, the real full node, and hold your own keys and blah, blah, blah. And now this is finally something that they can wrap their head around, is writing down 12 words. And you can tell them that it's like a password. And there's error correction because, you know what I mean? If you smudge ink, it's kind of not that bad because you can usually make out which word it is still, even if your handwriting is really, really bad. So I thought that was like pretty good. And then I thought it was very, very revealing that instead of Core being like, wow, this is great, let's just add it. Because you know what I mean? It's just like one simple transformation. You just code the function and then you just say, well, here's your wallet feed. And then instead, so this is how we ended up with BDK, which is, basically better.
I think there's a bit of context here because at the time when BIP39 came out, it was built by Satoshi Labs and Electrum. So basically Thomas and Pavel Rusnak from Trezor and Slush, and that's Marek. So these three guys built it, and then they disagreed about some very insignificant details about the cryptography that they're going to use. And that's why Electrum for a while decided to use their own implementation of BIP39. Even to this day, you can use that for your wallet with a different set of words, and it's very weird. But even past this incident, which I think was the original reason why the core developers decided to stall the adoption of BIP39, the entire industry has decided to use it. If you're using a graphene phone, you can back up your phone basically and unlock it with your 12 words. And even past this industry-wide adoption, we haven't seen any serious conversation about getting back to adopting this because it turned out to be a good idea. And I do understand that to a degree, like Bitcoin Core is for the people who really know what they're doing, and some of them just prefer to back up their private keys on a USB flash drive or something. But it's also a bit backwards in some ways. Like you look at the Monero client, it has BIP39 built in. You look at pretty much everything in the industry except for Bitcoin Core, and it has BIP39. So if anything, this reminds us that in some ways Core is like an ivory tower, and they think that they're smarter and better than everyone else. And then the market just routes around them, and they're like, "Oh, we don't care what you think. We'll just build
But
it."
that's a good thing. That just shows you that Bitcoin Core doesn't control Bitcoin.
No, because to me it means if they're going to fuck us on something really simple like BIP39, like how many other things are they just fucking us on?
How are they fucking it? They're not putting it into Bitcoin Core.
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, I mean, so that actually proves the point that Bitcoin Core can't fuck you because you can just route around it.
You can route around it.
you just
That's what's been happening forever.
Yeah, but routing around it in practice means like launching a new coin and replacing BTC.
No, it just means building a wallet.
After something like BIP39, what the fuck? It doesn't mean that.
Coins, you can have your own implementation, and that's what I kept telling you to do. I don't know why you didn't do that.
You're like conflating that with like the soft fork improvement angle.
It's a canary in the coal mine.
The only thing that Core can do that might actually be a perceived like block to things is consensus stuff, right? Like, and that's like a very, very small section of the code base in practice. And people have gotten very, very clever at how to actually make it an even smaller section. But the trouble is that because we've inherited a design that, you know, was set in motion before any of the industry had any wisdom about this stuff whatsoever, there are a lot of warts. And like, I spent a couple of years working on the Lightning protocol. I spent like another year working on the BitVM stuff. And it's like the constructions you have to go after in order to sort of deal with the anti-features of consensus are pretty unholy. And the trouble is that now the stakes are so high that no one wants to actually touch consensus. And that's like, I think people kind of misread a little bit of like Core's intentions here. It's like a lot of these people are just like, they're open source developers. They're really, really technically savvy. Yes, they have opinions on the tech and that they like will say those loudly, but like I think a lot of them are just like afraid of the liability. Like who is working on Bitcoin Core really wants to be responsible for like $1 trillion collapse because they happen to touch consensus in the wrong way, right? So like I think part of it is misreading intent.
Completely agree.
Like, I don't.
It just has a side effect.
And I'm not saying that this is a reason that you should like continue to like sort of you know treat them as like the high priests of the protocol. I'm not saying that you should like trust them in that way, but I think it's dangerous to misattribute like malice when the real issue is like primarily like apathy, right? Or maybe not apathy, but even just like in like some version of incompetence or a lack of confidence or whatever.
I disagree. I actually think it's the opposite. I think that they've fully realized that it is out of their control and that it is the market that must drive demand for a consensus change. I mean, if they were to try to make a consensus change from the top down, unless it's something that is, you know, super mundane or something that has already been kind of convinced in the broader market that it's good. Like, I mean, I think a good example is Taproot. Right, they were able to kind of shoehorn in Taproot and do it through speedy trial, but largely in part because the rest of the network was already on board. You had a lot of economic buy-in from a lot of participants. But even that, right? I mean, you still needed to build large, widespread support. And so, when you're saying things like Core are afraid to, you know, like do a consensus change. I don't think they're afraid of it. I think they just know that if they were to try to make a consensus change that didn't have widespread support, they'd get fucking roasted.
Yeah, but okay, so I mean, you brought up Taproot as an example, and it's a good example because it presents you could present the argument that there might be some like a chicken and an egg problem here. Like, did Taproot gain consensus because Bitcoin Core was the ones that were like championing the speedy trial activation? Or did they champion the speedy trial activation because it already had broad consensus? Like, which one was it?
For Taproot long before activations discussions ever took place. Like, I was actually part of those activation discussions when they were happening, right? Like, the issue was that people, like, there was a lot of disagreement on exactly how to activate it, but like literally zero ink was shed about whether or not Taproot should be activated at all, right?
Right. And if Core came out and said
BIP 8 versus BIP 9, or Luke claiming that like, you know, lock in on timeout false is the same as like miners taking control of the protocol and all this other nonsense that was spewed, right? But like, it was not the case that anyone was like, hey, we don't want Taproot. Like, that is never a sentence I heard uttered by anyone on Twitter, and Twitter is a pretty toxic place.
So, Keegs, you are in agreement then, right? I mean, Core is not the place to make any top-down decisions and consensus changes.
Completely.
And it's not necessarily because they're afraid to make those consensus changes. I'm sure they have their own opinions and ideas around which ones would be best, or, improve the protocol. But it's not their place to even make those, right? They kind of have to wait for the market itself to resolve around.
Well, I really have to push back on this because I think this is really an unfair and inaccurate frame, which is to say, my point of view is that we haven't had any soft forks activate. I don't think anyone actually knows at this point how to do it versus how not to do it. And so anyone just saying like, it should be like this or it should be like that, I think I just have to reject all of that. Like there is no one knows. And I think actually
ultimately you at least need to convince 51% of the hash rate, no matter what, right?
We all agree on that. Well, of course, I have this, as you probably know, I have this thing, the Core-untouched soft fork, where you could do the soft fork in a second piece of software.
Yeah, as like a meta protocol, right?
And then that would let you soft fork Bitcoin without changing Bitcoin Core.
But even with that, you still need 51% of the hash rate or more.
Right. But it's not just Bitcoin Core that sucks. It's also the miners also kind of suck, basically, which is that
everything sucks. Everyone sucks. This shit sucks.
Exactly.
You guys suck.
So
you can see why
decentralization sucks.
The trouble is that in order
it's just one of those days.
I hate decentralization.
I mean, it is bizarre because
out around the world, so difficult to coordinate these motherfuckers.
You're all a bunch of fucking retards. If you all just ran Paul's thing, we would all be in fucking Kumbaya land.
I think we probably would.
If I could just outreach every single motherfucker mining on Bitcoin.
Each of these, well, we don't need to, because the pools could be the specialist intermediaries, and then even for many of these soft forks, including BIP 300, 301, this is just like miners maybe making more money or having more money like overall. So you would think like that would be
right. The incentives align.
But instead, everyone is afraid to stick their neck out for literally anything, even something like OpCat. It's very
because you can't put the cart before the horse. Like you can't activate a soft fork that nobody wants.
But isn't it the other way around? Like, how do you really know what the people want?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think you need to have actual user buy-in because, first of all, if nobody wants it, nobody's enforcing it. So
I don't think this has ever really been the case, though. So, for example, SegWit was mostly to support Lightning, but there was no Lightning when SegWit activated. In the past, all the soft forks...
SegWit also fixed other problems, too.
In the past, all the soft forks were not controversial, and the fact that SegWit had nothing to do with the details of SegWit.
But even SegWit was by and large not that controversial, right? I mean, you had the big blockers who viewed it as controversial. Right?
But you see, the thing is,
you might discount those people, but everyone else was basically running.
To me, the opportune thing isn't controversial either, and that it should have been removed a long time ago, and that there even shouldn't be really any standard limits other than denial of service. So I think that the whole concept was a mistake, and I think it should have been removed back in 2014 or whatever when this issue first came up. And I was dreading the fact that one of the first things I did
as a whole, like the entire op code.
No, the limit, the byte limit. Yeah, exactly.
I agree with you. I don't think it should have. I think they should have had the policy to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. And whoever pays for the block space is the rightful owner. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying policy diverging from consensus is just in general not a good thing, right? Like it causes a lot of misunderstandings about what the protocol is. It doesn't actually help anything, as is exemplified by the fact that people direct submit to miners. Now nobody can actually predict what the next block is, so people's fee estimations all fucked up. So now Lightning and other layer 2 protocols can't actually get their justice transactions submitted in the same way, and then people lose money, and everybody is sad. Like, it's not a good
asterisk. In theory, I don't think any of that has actually happened in practice.
The direct mining,
in theory, we can cope about that.
We've made changes off of far less like plausible theoretical attacks. I'm just saying, like
Well, we could also we could also talk about that nobody actually gave a shit about fee estimation because Core's fee estimation algorithm is complete dog shit, and everybody uses mempool spaces.
Completely agree again. No, and there's actually there's a very simple thing.
Right? Like even if the fee estimation from Core is dog shit, right? The fact that Core can still at least nominally predict what the next block looks like helps external fee estimation algorithms do their job more successfully.
That's true.
Unless some gigantic spam wave hits the mempool, in which case they're completely out of their fucking depth.
No. But Kiggs is saying, you know, if Core's mempool by default is showing all of those transactions, then an external algorithm that is looking at those mempool items, those unconfirmed transactions, and doing its own estimation, will still see it, right? So ultimately, you still want to have
exactly. Ultimately, you still want as close to consensus as possible. So even if Core's built-in algorithm is shit, somebody else creating their own algorithm externally has the most like accurate data set to parse through.
I wonder if we're going to see op return go up to a 1 megabyte limit eventually. So right now it's still stuck at 100 kilobytes because of the transaction size limit, but then you got these retards with their dog mode shit.
Is that also policy, or is that?
That's policy. So that's the transactions. Well, yeah, of course it is, because there's 1 megabyte op returns that have already been confirmed. But the primary problem there is that the packing algorithm for Core templates isn't good when you have most of the block being consumed by a single transaction. It's hard to pack around a very large transaction, so they cap it at 100 kilobyte, and I guess that helps the algorithm. But I guess if enough people are consuming block space with 4 megas or 1 megabyte op returns, then I would assume that would be a forcing function for Core to loosen that policy too. And then we're just back in this whole fucking retarded loop of like arguing of whether or not that's bending to the will of spammer.
Yeah, man. That's why I think we should. I think we need to rip the Band-Aid off. I think we literally just need to just remove all policy and just be done with it.
Well, that's what I was hoping was going to happen.
I agree as well.
But there's
I think also if the 110 people, shouldn't they suffer if they're wrong? Like, shouldn't it just be the worst? Not that that would be the reason to do it, but you should say, well, hey, listen, we were trying to work with you on this op return thing, and then you went rogue with this 110.
Oh no, that would just be like a cherry on top. I think we should just do it for other reasons.
Were we trying to work with them with the op return thing? What do you mean? I feel like we were not trying to work with them.
The net result of this 110 stuff is that Luke finally leaves development. Like, that would not be the worst result.
I agree. Also, yeah, we did negotiate a little bit wicked because they were just going to straight up remove the data carrier size configuration, and they just brought it back as like a deprecated option.
It's no longer deprecated. Yeah.
Wait, they undeprecated it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So not
and
only
I
is
even
it still
thought
configurable, but it's not even deprecated anymore.
At one point, I suggested letting the terrorists win, and I was going to say, well, hey, listen, since it doesn't matter, and they direct submit to miners anyway, why don't you guys just put it back?
Well, Paul, like I think you don't want that. You don't want that bad misaligned incentive. If you've got like
I completely agree,
or smaller miners who are just running.
It's a question of like some people are angry, other people are indifferent. So I know it's so stupid. I agree, but Core does all this stupid stuff all the time. Like every single soft fork is like indifferent to the old people who don't even notice it, and then it helps whoever wants the soft fork. So we should really just be doing them all. We should be collecting them all. Got to catch them all. 151 soft fork.
No.
Well, but the thing is,
just gonna collect like Pokemon.
The trouble is that I think that BIP 110 is actually counterproductive to its own ends. That's the thing. So it's like if it actually accomplished what it set out to, I'd probably have a different stance on it than I do. But the reality is that it.
What does it?
No, I would never. Yeah, I would never. It's a terrible goal, a terrible implementation, and it's self-contradictory, and it doesn't even achieve
exactly right.
Sets out to achieve. So it's just baffling on so many different levels.
Paul,
it's hard to even wrap your head around.
He's saying if it actually achieved what the fuck it said it was going to achieve, like you're agreeing with each other.
Which is what though? Which is what? I'm just trying to define.
Stopping the spam, removing the JPEG from the main chain. Come on.
Is that the stated goal?
that like spam is an incoherent idea in a permissionless network.
Yeah, we all know. Everyone here
preaching to the choir. So I mean, to me, spam is literally everybody else's transaction except mine. So like, that's it.
Keith, do you have something to do with Star9?
I was a co-founder of Start9, but
is there turmoil of Star9 right now?
I don't know. I'm not there day to day. I could ask my brother, who still runs it, or he's the CTO, but he's not very loud on Twitter. He is like basically comes and talks, maybe once a year or something.
That's like the perfect person to ask.
What do you think of Start9's like pretty clear support for Bitcoin 10?
I think I have to be careful what I say here. Like from what I understand about the personalities involved is that I don't think that they're actually genuinely in support of 110. But I do think that it is in their interests for the.
I mean, I know they're making record. They're making
record. Sell nodes in a box, baby. To promote nodes in a box.
Let me just say this: there is an incentive for them to promote any public perception of nodes' individual power. I'll leave it at that.
Oh yeah.
And so it's not really about 110, I don't think. I think it is about this idea that nodes have power. And like there's an extent to which that's true, but it's also the way that I see it going right now is that it's like if false but useful narratives crop up, they will sort of not go contested. And if false but not useful or like counter adversarial narratives go up, then those will go contested. And so like those two things together end up in a situation where it kind of distorts the reality of the situation.
By the way, I watched Mechanic's latest video, and apparently he still has quite a few private shares in Start9, so he's also benefiting from.
Like, okay, I will say this to sort of dispute that. I mean, I'm sure that it's not zero, but it was never significant to begin with.
Well, I mean, come on, it's all relative, right? It might be significant to Mechanic.
Fair. But
are you calling him poor?
No, I'm
He's
just
calling
saying
him poor.
his stake in the company is.
No, I'm asking you, Wicked, not Kings.
No. Kings is calling him poor. Not me. Of course not me. Come on, bro. I'm the poorest of all of us.
No, I'm saying like I even think it's insignificant relative to Mechanic's own
a poor person like me.
His other holdings in other things.
No, of course. That's why he's talking about it on his fucking YouTube video every time yeah, I get it for sure. Why would Mechanic be following so closely the quarterly earnings of Start9 if his holdings weren't meaningful to himself?
So, because I have a little bit more insight into the personality that is behind Mechanic, right? Because I've met him, I've worked alongside him. I had large numbers of disagreements with him while he was there, and he left before I did. And in fact, he was fired from the company. I didn't do the firing either, right? So I have a lot of I have a lot more temperance towards towards the rest of the senior team, but I will not mince words about this. I do not think that Mechanic is someone that you should listen to about just about anything, candidly.
Preaching to the choir, man.
What?
You're preaching to the choir.
I still watch every single one of his videos.
Yeah, but do you actually listen to his advice when he says?
No.
Yeah, all right then.
No. It's
like entertainment, right? It's just kind of like going to the circus to watch the clowns.
Well, I want to see what the other plebs are hearing, and so that I can understand, what type of propaganda they're
Oh my God,
they're repeating.
It's very hard to understand. Out of all the weird chapters in Bitcoin history, I do think that this Luke op return is probably the chapter I understand the least well. Like all the other stuff is pretty easy to understand. Like, okay, Roger Ver lives in Japan. He has a great internet connection. think.
Oh, it's because we're getting more and more retarded, and you're just such a gigabrain.
Just
You can't make your
I
He
don't
can't
know.
comprehend
The funny thing is,
the ramblings of lesser life forms.
we have to like open our minds to the possibility that there's like something that all of us have missed. I don't think that's the case, but like really, like I just don't understand. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, why are they even doing this for themselves? How does it even help them?
Paul, I used to think that too, but like, because here's the thing: like, Luke is in some ways extremely smart, right? Like, he was the person who came up with the fact that you can't actually do hard forks. That like when the 0.8 to 0.9 release got kicked off, and there was an accidental hard fork, and the rest of Core wanted to just like tell everyone to upgrade. He was the one who sort of like set that precedent. He was the one who came up with the scheme to make SegWit into a soft fork instead of a hard fork. Like, he does have a lot of technical chops, but he's also crazy. And so
why are there all these other people going along with it? Like, they don't go along with it
because they're also fucking crazy. There's a lot of crazy people, Paul.
I know, but they don't go along with his like masturbation is a sin worse than murder. Literally everyone just kind of chuckles along. They say, that's our weird autistic friend Luke. He's weird sometimes.
Here's the thing, because there is like you said, there's a lot of times where he's pointed out something that everyone else missed. And the thing is that kind of makes people kind of treat him as this sort of like mystical like kung fu master that might know something. But and during the last cycle with the 2021 fork of like Taproot, right, when he was arguing about like the lock-in on timeout true versus false debate, and deciding like what was miner activated, what was user activated, like I gave him a lot more deference. But like 5 years have passed, and he's only gotten more like incoherent or like just like strange in his viewpoints, and also has gotten less willing to actually justify them. Like, it used to be that he would actually lay out his arguments, and I think maybe something happened when he got all his Bitcoin stolen or whatever, that like he just kind of went off the deep end.
Napped.
Yeah, he cracked.
Incorrect?
No, you're saying he cracked.
No, I said he
cracked.
I said he cracked.
He snapped.
Oh,
he went bananas.
Yeah, he snapped.
So like, I mean, so to your point, Paul, I think there's always a possibility that there's something that we missed. But like, I keep looking at this over and over again, and I don't.
Yeah, because that's what concerns me. It's kind of like,
I don't think
how like I don't remember what card game it is, but it's like there's a card game where it's like if you lose every round, you actually win the whole match. But if you lose like more than half, you lose. It's kind of like we're losing. It's like every piece of it doesn't make any sense, and all the previous stuff, like even like Block Size War made perfect sense. Michael Saylor, like I get it that he's very rich, and he's media personality. So I kind of allow that. Even when I really disagree, I can usually like wrap my head around what's happening. But in this one, it just seems totally bizarre to me.
Because Paul, you're trying to rationalize it from the like logic of somebody who is looking at it from like a technical perspective. I mean, like give me like one thing that's like happening here that's like baffling you, and I promise you I can help you like understand it from Luke's perspective.
But we talked about it already.
Luke is very, very consistent if you actually like realize like how he's thinking about things, and it all stems. I mean, I'll just be straight up with you. It literally all stems from like his religious perspective. Like it's he's a hardcore,
it's very funny.
Super hardcore Catholic. He truly believes that anybody who deviates from like tradition and conservatism is kind of like changing things, and they're the ones
which
that are
is funny which is funny because he's a sedevacantist, and like the most Catholic thing is following the Pope, and that's like very traditional.
But at the same time, the sedevacantists, they believe that there is no other Pope because after the Second Vatican, the popes they started basically teaching heresy, which means that they're not popes. Because popes can't teach heresy.
I was standing next to Luke when he said, like, he was like, oh, obviously we could do such and such as a soft fork. And then he said, and of course, obviously, we haven't had a real pope since 1971 or whatever pope it was. And so you're just like, kind of like in the same breath, you're just kind of like confused. But the confusing thing to answer your question is that one of the most bizarre things is that 110 doesn't do anything to prevent, spam on the blockchain. So why doesn't make any sense?
All right, so I'll literally tell you from Luke's perspective what 110 does. What 110 does is it washes his hands in the eyes of Jesus Christ that we are not condemning child pornography on the blockchain, because if he does not support 110, he will be condemned to hell because he's not standing up against vile things being on the chain. Like you laugh about it, but that's literally what it is. Like that's why he's so passionate about it, because if he does not
sense. So you're saying he has to keep taking every action. So if we do like a BIP 110B, or like we just do an endless list, he has to support them all because it's just these are all just tests. He's being tested in this life.
If they work towards like Catholic beliefs and like a Catholic belief system, then yeah, like if it's coherent with his internal belief system, then yeah, he will support it probably.
Doesn't it distract? Isn't it better for Catholicism if he doesn't waste his time with frivolous? What about doing God's work on earth?
He's doing God's work, dude. He's literally preventing. He's fighting against CP enjoyers. And
I guess it makes some sense. I got to hand it to you that it makes some, but it implies that he has to just keep doing this forever. But I suppose that doesn't matter. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's also kind of what Christianity teaches, is that you kind of have to keep doing it forever. It's a never-ending battle.
Yeah, but even other Christians would recognize, I have to prioritize. You got to pick your battles, and this battle is.
No, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I'm just like if you look at it from the perspective of like some hardcore, I take everything super literal autist. Like there's no prioritization. It's like kind of like you just got to deal with whatever God puts in front of you, right? And so like this is Luke's battle. Like his battle is stopping CSAM spreaders or whatever.
Even though BIP 110 doesn't stop it.
Yeah, he washes his hands clean of the fact that he's also not like endorsing it or condemning. At least he's trying. Exactly, he's trying.
I think every technical person also knows better than to fall for the cease. Like it's like there's only two options. Like vet every single vector of bytes that goes across the internet somehow. Even that doesn't make any sense because you can XOR. So that's the thing is technical people know it's just a dead end. Even if you wanted to, you can't even.
Yeah, and Luke has never denied it. Luke has just said that if this behavior continues, like there's other things we can do. And he's brought up firing the miners. He's also brought up reintroducing transaction whitelists. Like so, in his mind, like it's just like it's a never-ending battle. Like you take a jab at them, see what happens. If they keep doing it, then you take another jab at them. See what happens, as long as you're not just being complacent and just like taking it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nico, how's it going?
Hi, how's everybody doing? Can I give you an example with something I actually saw IRL in New York City of what BIP 110 is going to do? So in 2020, from 2020 to 2021, like in the middle of 2021, I didn't drive a cab because for whatever reason, right? We had COVID going on. But probably one of the first Saturdays after I started driving a cab again, I picked up, it was like, I don't know, Saturday afternoon. It was like a 60, 70-year-old woman. Older woman, she just bought a vacuum on Fifth Avenue. Okay. Forget about that part, right? It's the way she presented herself. She was wearing one of those regular masks, then an N95 on top, and then she had a face shield that was duct taped on the sides. So you tell me what the fuck that shit did. This is exactly what BIP 110 is, bro. Like, this is a true story. I still can't believe what I saw in my life because this was a wealthy woman, and it was just like she was just totally out of this world. And I shit you not, with the duct tape on the sides of the bottom of the fucking face shield. She had it like the top had the thing for like you wrapped around her head, and then the bottom, and then she literally put duct tape right below the fucking masks, the other masks on the face shield, so that no, I don't know what she didn't expect to get in, but she was breathing. I'll tell you that much. But like that's pretty much what BIP 110 is doing here. It's to relieve whatever in their consciences where they think they're safe and they're not. That's all I could think of here. That's it.
Well, that's very interesting. And of course, Luke also, remember when he went to the Bitcoin Miami, I think it was the first Miami Beach one. So it was even after it was the later one.
Yeah,
and
he came with the
and they couldn't put the normal microphone, the lapel microphone on him. So they had to give him the handheld microphone, and you couldn't understand a word. I was trying to listen to it. I saw it live. You couldn't understand a word That was coming out of his mouth through the mask and the weird microphone.
He also dunked DiGiorno's pizza, frozen pizza, in hydrogen peroxide to clean it of the virus.
I mean, you guys just proved my point. I think I heard of the hydrogen peroxide story, but still,
it's literally true. Like he doesn't deny it either. Like he just tweeted about it publicly. Like he tagged them or whatever. He's like, DiGiorno, why is your cardboard box not? Why is it not water sealed?
Well, no, it was the plastic wrapping around.
Oh yeah, you're right. The plastic wrapping on the pizza itself.
And
Yeah.
So when he dunked it, the hydrogen peroxide got into the pizza.
Is that stuff?
Wait, how? Okay, so I never actually thought about that. How did he get so much fucking hydrogen peroxide? Did he just go to the pharmacy and just buy like fucking like 40 bottles of hydrogen peroxide,
Brian,
and put them in a bathtub or something?
This is when he had hundreds of Bitcoin. I mean, you can get anything you want if you have hundreds of Bitcoin.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking about how much hydrogen peroxide you would need to dunk an entire fucking DiGiorno's pizza. You would literally need like to fill a bathtub full of hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking maybe the right questions, but at the same time, like, you know, it's you can get whatever you want if you have hundreds of Bitcoin.
I think it was a cooler. I saw a photo of it. Someone showed me.
Okay, yeah, you can use a cooler too, but again, now you have a cooler full of hydrogen peroxide, which is still fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
plus it becomes water. It disintegrates chemically. It disintegrates. It becomes water.
Yeah, it evaporates, right?
Yeah, but like think about it. When you go to the store, like when you buy hydrogen peroxide, it comes in these little bottles, so you have to buy like 40 of these fucking bottles.
Yeah, no big deal. Or you just Amazon it. I'm sure he did.
I'm just curious about how this pizza got cooked after. If it wasn't sealed, like was it overcooked?
No, I think. Well, I think after he realized it had leaked into the pizzas, he probably threw those ones away, and then that's when he, tweeted at DiGiorno's and complained.
I mean, it probably would have been fine. It would have just boiled off, I guess. I mean, obviously, it could have changed.
Would you eat it? Would you eat fucking pizza dunked in hydrogen peroxide?
Hydrogen peroxide is just H2O2, right? So it's not that bad.
There is food.
Just yes or no? Would you eat it?
I would.
I had a question. If I don't know because during COVID, I don't know the food, everyone's food supply chain. Weird? But my guess is that when you put it in the oven for 30 minutes or whatever you do to cook it, my guess is that it would. All that hydrogen peroxide.
It would evaporate.
I would guess. I would definitely maybe smell it and take like a test bite.
Brian, have you ever tried?
You should serve it at one of your parties.
Alcohol? Have you ever tried 200 proof alcohol?
You make parties. That'd be great.
Fucking peroxide. Like it smells, and I've never tasted peroxide, but I tasted that.
You should taste it, Nico, and let us know.
I'm not tasting it, but like there's this Greek moonshine from Cyprus. It's called spirto, which means match in Greek, but it's moonshine, bro. Like I don't even know where to buy this shit. And drinking like a fucking little. Like my grandmother used to drink a shot of it all the time in the morning.
I got a little moonshine in my house.
It's like fucking drinking. It's like drinking like peroxide going down your fucking throat. It's strong as fuck.
That's nasty. Keegs, I missed it. I had to log off, but you did say you were the co-founder. You were the co-founder, right? Do you still have anything to do with it or no?
I am not part of an operational role. I still have a stake because they haven't bought the rest. I mean, I did sell. I struck a deal to sell a number of like a large chunk of my shares almost a year ago, but there's not like. I mean, I still have a pretty major stake. I don't sit on the board anymore and haven't for about maybe a year and a half. And then I have no operational role, but
got it. All right.
I still know the founders. Still on good terms with them. Kind of have to be because one of them was my blood brother. But
past year's been good, huh?
Oh wait, you two are brothers?
The CTO is my blood brother. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
You're a good brother, man. Disagreeing with your brother, but still supporting him.
I mean, he actually agrees with me for what it's worth about 110. Like he doesn't. I mean, he has a much more tempered view. I think he actually sits kind of between where I am. I don't think that he has as strong of opinion on like the fact that 110 is not sound, but he also will freely admit that he doesn't know necessarily because it's just not his area of expertise.
I mean, I'll tell you what, BIP 110 is good for business, right? Like you got,
sure.
it has probably
right.
So, in a marketing standpoint, for business wise, it's a good decision, I guess.
Yeah, and but he's not really. He has a very hands-off approach to the way that he engages in that side. He runs the entire tech team. That's his only focus. He's like, let me just make the software good. The business strategy has largely been run by Matt forever. Actually, even when I was there, he did, right? Like, I didn't have much input into that. Mostly because I didn't have the experience at the time. So.
He's older, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, I wanted to ask you, is it possible for Bitcoin Core to introduce changes that would that could not be merged into drive chains or into eCash, like some kind of anti-BIP300, anti-drive chain, anti-eCash type of change?
Paul,
I was
for a second,
getting kicked out, and I almost didn't come back. I was almost like, this stupid app is the worst. What is wrong with the people coding the spaces? I don't know, but it's just basic reliability. It doesn't work.
On
so
Android,
then I am
Paul?
at the end of it. Yeah,
yeah, it's a completely unusable, dude. Since the new update, go download like an APK of like an older version. It's completely unusable.
I know, and it's basically
going to be fixed by the end of the week. Apparently.
Oh, good. I also have like an iPhone that I also use sometimes for different apps. So sometimes I just join from the iPhone. So maybe I'll try that. But it's even worse than usual. Last week it kicked me off of my own. It rugged my own space, and then I couldn't even start a new space or rejoin. And I was like, "Is this for real?"
And Android users can't host or co-host spaces right now because they have like a new app. But it's bad. It's really bad. But they're supposedly going to fix it by the end of the week.
Okay, that's good. So there was a question though, a Zcash question. Then I'll probably get going, even though this was really fun. This was from what, 2 to 7? You guys just do this every day for 5 hours?
Yeah, I mean, it depends.
No, it's not every day. It's random.
Sometimes.
It's always random.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Depends on, you know.
Okay, what I heard the question was something like an anti-eCash soft fork. And I was like, oh, that sounds very unfriendly.
Is it mathematically possible for Bitcoin Core to have changes, like have anti-BIP300 changes that would be incompatible with eCash? Like
already it's breaking off. So just by not merging BIP300, they already have anti-BIP300 changes.
Bitcoin is kind of made to append to it. So like if somebody wanted to make a fork, they could. That's the whole point.
No, but I understand his question. His question, Paul, is do you think that Bitcoin Core could introduce like some change on purpose? Because you said that your new eCash thing, you want to basically like keep it in consensus with Bitcoin Core, like pull downstream changes. So what about if Bitcoin Core creates like some code that purposely breaks your BIP 300?
Yeah,
it would break the enforcer. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, on the 2 weeks or a week ago, you said basically with Bitcoin Core, you're just clicking merge. Is there something that would be the end of that?
It's an interesting question, and theoretically, the answer is yes, but it would be like a kind of cat and mouse. It would kind of be a little like how 110 is a bad idea. So I'll just maybe steel man it. This is the most malicious thing. Everyone, I can see Mr. Hoddle. He's like grabbing a pen and a paper. He's going to write this down. He's got to take some notes. But the worst thing they could do is the most inconvenient thing would be like if we use for whatever we use for the BIP 300, 301 enforcer, we'd use like OpNop 5. So like if they if we wanted to keep clicking merge, we might have to schedule some kind of hot swap of that. So if they say we're using op-nop5 for some, they probably wouldn't even do this because they just do op success in Taproot because they're, sucking Taproot's dick or whatever. Taproot's not even that cool, everyone. It's just like this thing to support Lightning, which is dying.
They gave us ordinals. Anyway, I like it.
Yeah, and it's like Taproot is kind of, well, it's a different story. So basically, although the eCash L1 is almost exactly the same as Bitcoin Core, minus like the few minimal changes that are very, very small. And you could try the dry run 3. You go on GitHub and look and see for yourself. We're up to dry run 3. We'll probably do a bunch more iterations. So we really like it. But the L1 is the very simple part. Most of the work is on the L2s. And the BIP 300, 301 stuff is not in the L1. It's in the Enforcer, which is a different piece of software. So that would be the thing to target, like op-nop5 or whatever we use, and then use it for something else. At that point, of course, we could basically, if we wanted to keep the merge, we could hard fork the Enforcer over an eCash land and say, okay, we used op-nop5 until this day, but then we switch it to op-nop 79 or something, or 7 plus 9 something else, because I could elaborate on that if people want, but that would be like the most annoying thing, I think. Other than that, not really. I don't think so, because really it's just not changing Bitcoin Core. So the L1 is very similar. And the main new thing.
Do you want me to take it down, Wicked? You want me to take it down? How you feel, Wicked? I just posted. Do you want me to take that down?
What are we taking down?
What are we taking down?
Maybe something on the Nest. I don't know.
Sounds like there's something going on where they are.
Wicked, do you know this person?
I did better shoot. Wicked, that's your respect. I'm not talking to. Wicked.
It's Mimi. She's a troll.
Oh,
remove
yeah.
her.
You want me to take it down?
No,
what
you
the
just go
fuck
down
is going
to the
on
basement. Go down there.
So District Mimi is like probably one of your favorite trolls. Figure it out. Like you'll see what we're talking about. But she's not talking to any of us right now.
Oh, it's Mimi. I didn't even realize. Yeah, she's a troll.
She's a literal troll.
All right.
Anyway, I have to go now. This has been fun. You guys are great.
All right.
Paul.
Thanks for having me up. I'll see you later.
Yeah, great space.
I'll send you that list later.
Okay, great. See you guys.
All right. So I don't know if there's much else to talk about today. I think I need to eat some food. I haven't eaten all day. Just been drinking beer.
Really? Do you want me to remove it, or how you feel about it? Like we can go ahead and squash it.
Hey, delete your account. I dare you.
What's going on?
No, I know it's my account, but it's attached to his mother. I'm not talking to you, Ladybug.
Who's Ladybug?
But
I'm talking to you, Ladybug.
What the hell?
Ladybug.
All right. Well,
go eat. You good?
I guess I'll see you guys later.
You good? You want me to take it down?